Chapter 11:15, Worldwide Changes. Chapter 11:15, Worldwide Changes. Proofreader, Papatonks. The War of the Lands started after more than a year of ample preparations from both sides, yet lasted under 2 weeks. These few days were more than enough to cause a widespread change to the world. The losses in the war were the highest on the Four Lands side, having been the one at disadvantage to begin with. They had lost close to 3/4 of all their manpower to hold back the invading army. It was nothing more than a Pyrrhic victory of blood and carnage. Nonetheless, a win was what they had achieved against a formidable foe. They had forced the central area into retreating. Yet it felt more of a defeat because when the chance presented itself to finish off the undefeated empire, they chose to let it slip away for some odd reason. All the soldiers who risked their lives and the very few lucky ones to have outlived this war felt toyed with at the news. For what had they bled so much? While the powers that be talked among each other, the lower rung was easily swayed and gullible, saying something like it was for their own good as more losses would be disastrous, or any such sanctimonious excuses, was enough. This took their mind off the reality that the invincible sword was going to come back with a vengeance, possibly go berserk in his assault. While a fraction of officers were sharp enough to figure it out, the main bulk of the army was made up of lost sheep going where the wind blew. All the pain, bloodshed and suffering felt soothed with tangible gains in their hands. After such a genocidal war, many crucial positions in the Four Lands became open. In the Western Lands case, the 9 sects were in short supply of disciples and elders, and they started mass recruiting. In the Eastern Lands and Southern Lands cases, the head clans ruling them were short-handed as well and needed to fill in countless spots, mostly low positions. With brilliant prospects ripe for the taking, many scrambled to climb the social ladder. 4 who had the time to mind insipid stuff like the illogical decision of the leaders to negotiate a ceasefire. The Luo alliance had heavy losses as well and also took in crowds of people into their fold. Every time he saw the boundless greed in all their eyes, Luo Yunhai sighed, the pigs. Lung Wuchang and Zhuge Changfeng were happy though, as supreme power was being dumped on their heads. Without these fools who would carry out all those power plays and upstaging battles. Such was reality. As the Luo alliance wasn't a selective sect that took one disciple at a time, it could gobble up whole clans by the dozens. It recruited like a ravenous whale feasting on krill. In mere months, it was halfway back to its old self. It left all the sects in the dust and in utter shock. The Luo alliance experienced the swiftest growth after the war. While the quality left much to be desired, it made up in quantity. It jumped right into being at a top middle 3-sect level and even showed signs of catching up to a superior 3-sect. Double Dragon Manor was just as stunned. Before, the Luo alliance was only at the top lower 3-sect level. The growth was just insane. It soon became apparent why. This was the Luo alliance's spoils from the war. Being an alliance, it had swift growth as its main feature. This was noted even before the war, though not at this rate since other veteran sects stood above. Now that the veteran powers were weakened, the Luo alliance showed just how fast it could bolster their ranks. Exalted Double Dragon sighed. Zhuofan has set up the Luo alliance well. Luo alliance will soon become the head of the 9 sects, if not on the Double Dragon Manor's level. None of them were aware that this war had stirred Luo Yunhai to reach for the top. Double Dragon Manor would have no chance to stop it by then. Some clans cheered, others bemoaned. While the Western Lands were buzzing with activity and recuperation after the war, the Southern Lands, Northern Lands and Eastern Lands were in the pits of despair, wretched and devastated. Their main factions were recovering, sure, but the main issue here was the lack of a most crucial figure. The 3 divine swords got lost when their wielders entered the sea demon's black mist in a grave state, and now those 3 clans washed their hands of their land's problems, opting for seclusion. The 3 lands were left dumbstruck. Without the leaders, it'd be a miracle if they could withstand the 9 sword kings, to say nothing of the invincible sword. To get these 3 leaders to come back to them, the Northern Lands group kicked Ouyang Changqing's door, the Eastern Lands blue bloods waited at Shangguan Qingyin's house for news, while the Coots in the Southern Lands had the Murong compound on lockdown to not let Murong Lai go, staying there until death if they had to. They were met with a vile and most unscrupulous Ouyang Changqing. He knew they needed him, so he had no qualms in asking for a bribe then and there. To make it worse, he flaunted in their face every day, acting like the king of the Northern Lands and getting on their nerves because he knew they couldn't touch him. As for when his old man would come around, he made sure to be as vague as possible. In Shangguan Qingyin's case, there was a lady too refined and poised to fall so low. so she bolted her door to any and all solicitors. The troublemakers were easily dispatched with the help of the clan's 3 venerables. They were far from helpless. After some thorough examples were made, the crowd knew when to take a hint. The biggest shock came in the Murong clan. Murong Lai vanished, and as it turned out, so did his sister. With the 2 gone, the clan had no one to turn to. Having lost their divine swords and their leaders, the 3 lands were at their weakest in history. With little choice, they returned to restoring their strength. They learned from the western lands to just take in people en masse for the common ranks. This ought to patch up the most glaring vulnerability. The more the better, no. The 4 lands being in such a horrid mess presented the perfect chance to the central area to take them all down. With their 9 sword kings, a division was more than enough to mow them down. Bailey Jingwei's peace accord made it impossible, having pledged on his own Dao heart from invading those lands for the century to come. Though a man as wise as Bailey Jingwei was not so foolish to set himself up to 100 years of stagnation. The peace came to be because he had no choice. He truly needed a century of peace. The Sword Star Empire was the mightiest, employing the greatest army, but it had lost its cohesion, a thing of the past replaced by bits and pieces. With the central area's vast swaths of lands and riches, in just a couple of weeks, 1,000,000 insurrections ignited. A third of the towns fell, making it the worst civil war in the history of the central area. Zhuo Fan made a killer move, telling the Serene Shores trading to rise up in time of war. Even within the relatively short time frame, the Serene Shores trading had no qualms and flipped the mighty nation upside down, especially how void it was of any real military to stop them. The entire insurrection was a chain reaction. With one taking the lead, the other local thugs followed right after. It led to the mighty nation that knew only peace for a millennia burning down to pieces faster than tinder. Bailey Jingwei himself was stunned to find the peace he maintained had so many dangers lurking under the surface. They hardly were worth notice if they had been put out when they started. Now though, he had to rein it in and look after his patriarch while pacifying the 4 sword kings. He knew though that the Sword Star Empire was now changed forever. The insurrection was on a massive scale. He might force it to simmer, but the embers would still be there, losing the cohesion it enjoyed for so many years. To cull all the foreign elements from such a large territory required time and patience, 100 years at least. Bailey Jingwei made the vow for good reason. He did not want the 4 lands to mess up his nation any more than it already was. Funny how the 4 lands leaders still thought they had forced Bailey Jingwei into a corner to make such a proposal, enjoying their victory. They were just oblivious to the fact that Bailey Jingwei played them all this time. It was something every side needed right now. Prime Minister Bailey the most. Grandmaster, how is the patriarch's condition? In a dim hall, a wizened old man came from behind a thick drape. Bailey Jingtian rushed him for answers. The emperor and the crown prince were right behind him. The man bowed. Your Majesty, Prime Minister, Your Highness, I have given Patriarch a 12th grade pill to stabilize. However... What? All asked in one voice, laced with concern. The elder frowned. The Patriarch's wounds are beyond deep, his yuan qi spent, his core damaged. The Patriarch still had the strength to live for close to 1,000 years more, but as he is now, he shall find his rest in 100 years beyond any hope. You're saying Patriarch has only 100 years? Bailey Jingwei's heart jumped in his throat. Grandmaster, the nation can't do without the Patriarch. There has to be. The old man sighed. Humans have their limits and so do I. Unless... What? The Patriarch advances before the end, extending his life. I've lived for so many years already, and with the Patriarch at the very peak, there still has not been any case of there being another realm above it. Thus. Bam. Bailey Jingwei crushed his skull with his palm, his eyes cold. Bailey Jingshi gasped. He was an imperial 12th grade alchemist. Not a word can escape the Patriarch's condition. Bailey Jingwei's eyes flashed, glancing at the bleeding body. Your Majesty, he would have died even if he was a miracle worker. What do you think the 4 sword kings will do the minute they know of the Patriarch's condition? Bailey Jingshi nodded after a thought. How did you handle them? Are they truly in the dark about everything? I made sure no word escaped carrying the Patriarch back to the imperial capital. I even had the 5 sword kings stay silent. The 5 of them were wounded and I had them sent to recover. The other 4 were sent to quell the rebellions. In any case, with the Patriarch still reigning, they will do nothing. That's why the Patriarch must be safe. With hatred in his eyes, Bailey Jingwei's voice was steel. In a gloomy forest, Wu Randong stood before the cute Qiaoer, the young Gu Santong and Zhuo Fan between them, his eyes covered with a white ribbon. Begin our way to the top. Chapter 11:16, Century. Chapter 11:16, Century. Proofreader, Papatonks. Clang. It was a black night, the darkness all-consuming. The only glimmer of life came from the moon above, offering its gentle and cool glow upon the land. However, it didn't last as black clouds hid it behind a curtain of obscurity. A group of bare-chested men holding spiritual weapons in a cave struck the walls in a precise manner, enlarging it so that a person could pass. Friends, past tomorrow will be free of this nerve-wracking life. Harder, brothers. A big man with whiskers for a mustache sneaked his way in front and whisper-shouted. The others lit up in hope. Ugh, damn, we're finally done with this. Boss, you have no idea, but the envoy that put us here had me soil my pants in fear. Everyone knows this place is beyond dangerous and getting caught means death of the worst kind. I thought this was my end, but 3 months came and went while actually finishing our mission, so we get to go home. I'm curious if we'll ever get the fortune to see Palace Lord. Keep dreaming. The big man rolled his eyes. I've been a member for 100 years now, an elder you could say, but I still have yet to catch a glimpse of his face. And you hope to see him after a few years? You're delusional. The rest were chuckling, looking with simple yet mocking expressions. The guy scratched his head, the hope still strong. How is the Palace Lord? Did you find anything? They say he is an elusive and mystical person of divine skill. Yet none have seen his face or know how strong he is. I somehow got inside the palace as well, but I don't know when I'll ever get the honor to meet. That's hard to say. All I heard was that none can bar the Palace Lord in his travels throughout the land. My palace brothers once found themselves surrounded by 50 Genesis stage experts. When they blinked, the 50 enemies were reduced to smears of blood on the ground. They then heard but did not see the Palace Lord telling them to go. The Palace Lord's fame then echoed throughout. Damn. 50 Genesis stage experts killed in an instant? Is he a Central Area Sword King or something? Squinting, the men gasped in disbelief. The big man dismissed. What does a Sword King have on him? I heard that the Palace Lord has 5 kings of his own at their level, but he is still the strongest. Wow. Impressed, the men said, sure it isn't just an inflated rumor? Stronger than a Sword King? Isn't that straight up the legendary invincible sword? The invincible sword hasn't shown his face in a century. He might be dead already. In the war back then he was hanging by a thread. The Empire is just not saying anything is all. Let's leave the gossip for later and get to work. The big man waved impatiently and the others began to chip away at the walls with their spiritual weapons, despite the deep curiosity obvious on their faces. Just who could the mystery and magical Palace Lord be? Can he be that strong? A short guy panicked as he ran around shouting. Run. The Flying Cloud Manor's dogs are coming. The Flying Cloud Manor? The guys started, flustering. I told you this place was dangerous. Now that we're so close to finishing the job, the Flying Cloud Manor has found us out. Shengguan Feiyun is one of the 10 Sword Kings, known for his cruelty and violence. What now, what now? Pa. The big man slapped him hard, barking, that's enough. Run, but don't forget to seal the cave so it's not discovered and make all this work go to waste. The men gave urgent nods and scrambled. They made signs to seal the cave from view and flew away at once. Whoosh! A dozen elderly just flashed in their path as they went, unleashing their mighty Genesis stage power. The men panicked and shivered at what was to come. Haha, you got some nerve trying anything in the Flying Cloud Manor's domain? You must have a death wish. One elder laughed, walking forward and flaring his aura at the 7th layer of Genesis stage. The big man stepped ahead, using his own power while shouting, brothers, I'll make a path and you run. The man charged then and there. 6th layer of Genesis stage? The old man chuckled, a mere layer's difference, but it might as well be worlds apart. You got another thing coming if you think you can escape me, haha. The old man shot for the big man. Bam. The two clashed palms, with the elder staggering back 5 steps and the big man just one, straining to stop as blood trickled down his mouth. He chose to charge again, to strike while the elder was off guard. He landed a palm on the elder's chest. Brother lay. The men cheered but then gasped as they saw the big man spurting blood. The elder, blown away, gnashed his teeth and wiped the blood. He glared with hatred. Humph, you got guts to take the brunt of my palm to strike back at me. But all that did for you is increase the damage you have, more than mine, fool. We'll see who's the real fool. The big man showed a bloody smile, shouting, "Brothers, go. I'll clear a path." The men jerked awake from their shock. The big man was hurt, but he did get the elder to back off and present a chance at escape. The men rushed at once. "Brother Lei, we won't let your effort be in vain." "Stop them." The elder roared, and the old men behind him surrounded them. The big man flashed before them once again, shouting, "To get to my brothers, you first have to go through me." "Our thoughts exactly." The dozen elders grinned. The big man chuckled and released a powerful wave. The elder cried, "He's detonating, scatter." The old men scrambled away at once. "Brother Lei." The fugitives shouted back, but the big man gave a cackle. "I am an elder of the palace. No one can look down on me." His heroic valor had the fugitives amazed and reverent. "What palace are you talking about?" A man flashed by, a middle-aged man staring at him hard. "You can detonate for all I care, since it won't change a thing. It can't even scratch me. But let me tell you this, not even blowing up will help them escape from me." The big man widened and his denotation was halted from shock. "As Sword King Feiyun?" "No more popping." Shangguan Feiyun grinned, raising his hand as it released powerful energy, mocking, "In that case I'll send you off. With so many targets to choose from, there's no harm in removing a couple defiant elements, ha ha ha." The dreaded palm aimed for his skull. The big man shook, his heart running wild, while his men were by themselves with worry. "Brother Lei." Whoosh. A flash of reed streaked by just then, meeting with the attack. Boom. The thunderous clash spread in every direction, shaking the far-off fugitives and the Genesis experts away. Even Shangguan Feiyun got blown 100 meters from his spot. He cried out in amazement, "Who did that? State your name." "Haha, Sword King Feiyun, have you forgotten me already?" A youth of about 17 showed up. He had sharp eyes and an evil smile. On his waist was the token of a scarlet beast head. The big man cried out, "Why, you're one of the palace's 5 arts kings, Beast King?" "I am Elder He," the youth winked. The men looked dumbstruck. It came as a complete shock to find the Beast King from their palace to be so young and so promising. He actually kicked Shangguan Feiyun away. Is that Sword King level? Does that mean Palace Lord is even better? Are the rumors actually true? Is Palace Lord as strong as Invincible Sword? The men were filled with hope. Chapter 11:17, Devil Palace. Chapter 11:17, Devil Palace. Proofreader, Papatonks. Not letting them out of his sight, Shangguan Feiyun's eyes flashed with bloodthirst. But that kick told him the opponent was no pushover, of the same caliber as him. He reached out with 2 fingers, focusing a concentrated sword energy at their tips until the very sky boomed with lightning. He was getting serious. "Whoever you are, for the audacity of facing me, death is all you'll get." The fugitives shook. Once a Sword King level expert goes wild, they would be nothing but dust in the wind from the aura alone. "Ha, what an attitude you have, Sword King Feiyun. I might have fallen for it the last time, but I'm no longer a child. It's too soon to tell how our fight goes." The youth grinned and the bones in his fists cracked as he tensed them, taking on a scarlet glow. Shangguan Feiyun was confused. "Have we met? Why can't I remember you? Who are you exactly?" "Humph, you must have gone senile, Sword King Feiyun. Did you already forget the animosity born out of harming me? I've killed more than I could count, hardly any could escape me. I can recall those that I've wounded, but I do not recall you. Did you escape my notice, crawling out from under corpses?" Hee, right you are. I did crawl my way through death to you today so I can settle this." The youth reached out and flung the big man into the fugitives. "Leave, the Sword King and I have an old score to settle." "So soon? Think again. You're all going to die here." Shangguan Feiyun roared and unleashed the attack he prepared. "None can stop my soaring sword art." Boom. With the rumble of thousands of lightning strikes, the sword energy from above started hailing down along with his sword wave. The apocalyptic image threatening to bring about the end of days. Everyone panicked, their knees shaking, their hearts frantic. The youth's red glow exploded with a mighty bestial roar, smashing with his iron fist. The scarlet glow took the form of an ancient and peculiar beast, growing and growing into the sky. Boom. The punch struck the incoming sword wave, and the very space quaked as if the world would disappear. All that remained was a thick blanket of dust. The fugitives and the Genesis experts were forced to cough blood under the tremendous impact, quickly becoming wounded and in pain. They were hanging on by a thread as it was. They were fortunate enough that the shockwave did not continue and the curtain of dust descended. Once the moon graced the battlefield with its light, the people were left speechless. Shengguan Feiyun and the youth stood in the same spot without a single scratch on them. Only the space was constantly warping around, unable to find balance. This was a dead heat, with neither gaining the upper hand. They both went all out, yet the groups behind each of them were still alive. They were the only ones harmed in this as well, but now they gulped from shock, their blood running cold. These two were absurdly strong, making all the rest around them part of the scenery, insignificant and pointless. Either side needed but a fraction more strength and it would have wiped them out from existence. The dread the Genesis experts felt right then was so great their eyes looked ready to pop from shock. They had no clue what organization they were after when they came here to take these men. How could there exist any that could stand up to their Sword King? There was no point in chasing, now was there? They couldn't even question them, not when the big young boss was here and so tough. Shengguan Feiyun was just as stunned, feeling a headache coming and his heart sinking. His investigation into the hidden faction had been going for years now, but only today did he get the chance to touch them. Never in his wildest dreams did he think they would send someone of such power. To make it worse, he was young to boot. Shengguan Feiyun felt a shiver down his spine, unease taking hold of him. The youth smirked. Shengguan Feiyun, 100 years have gone yet no progress in sight. I even asked to be in charge of this side just so I could fight you. Now though, haha, it's so much easier than I thought. The youth looked back and smiled. Didn't I tell you to leave already? I'm going to keep fighting with the Sword King and you're just going to get dragged into it. Uh-oh. The men jumped then bobbed their heads before making a run for it. Shengguan Feiyun was outraged, giving chase. You're not going anywhere. Bam. The youth was there to get him to back off with a kick. Sword King Feiyun, your opponent is me, the youth taunted. Shengguan Feiyun was enraged, more so knowing he could do nothing against someone of equal strength. The elders that he brought along thought of chasing the fugitives, but a single glance into the youth's eyes advised them against it. A Sword King level expert could just flick their lives away. Sword King Feiyun was sullen, his eyes bloodshot as he watched the bugs scurrying away and he could do nothing to stop them. He roared under the mounting frustration, taking it out on the youth. He rushed forward and unleashed sword wave after sword wave. Bam! The earth rumbled for thousands of miles under the heavy rain of attacks. The fugitives took a curious look behind to see a glorious blaze reflected in their eyes, overcome by reverence. Brother Lei, we did good by entering the palace. Our strength is beyond anything we thought. One of them teared up and spoke with pride. With the palace's protectors, the arts kings, having such might, I just wish we could catch a glimpse of the revered palace lord. The men were getting rowdy and hopeful. Bam! Knocking their heads, the big man wiped the blood on his mouth, cursing, wake up. Palace lord won't appear just 'cause you lot want him to. I'm an elder and still haven't seen him. He'll be seeing me if that happens and not you. Oh right, Brother Lei is right, haha. The men chuckled, welcoming the coming dawn with hope. Brother Lei, did you happen to hear that rumor spreading across the world? I wrote it off as nonsense, but the more I think about it the more I find it true. The big man flinched and stared in amazement at him, then his smile broke out into full-blown laughter. Brothers, we will find only glory with the palace lord, haha. Bam! Rumbling echoed behind them still, with the youth and Shengguan Feiyun having clashed hundreds of times by now. They were out of breath and glaring at each other still. Catching sight of the rising sun shining on the land, the youth figured the men ought to be clear by now and grinned with a light wave. Shengguan Feiyun, we'll end it here. Let's fight again later. Bye, haha. The youth turned into a red glow and fled. Stop right there. Shengguan Feiyun roared with bloodshot eyes, but all he could do was gesticulate in anger. Just where did this hidden faction come from? Report. A shout reached him as a manor guard bowed, presenting a jade slip. Sword King, sir, Prime Minister summons the 10 Sword Kings to the Imperial capital to discuss how to deal with the recent Devil Palace growing in every land. Devil Palace. Shengguan Feiyun frowned, looking where the youth took off. Another Devil Palace showed up? Just what is this thing? Chapter 11:18, Sword Shack. Chapter 11:18, Sword Shack. Proofreader, Papatonks. Dat I'm back. The job's done in Shengguan Feiyun's area. In a gloomy hall, with the only faint light coming from some candles, a bored voice sounded. A charming youth waltzed in towards the center as he spoke, the same Beast King that met Shengguan Feiyun blow for blow more than 300 times. Dad's not here again? Palace Lord left 2 weeks ago, wandering the world. A magnetic voice replied, and a middle-aged man with a split mustache walked out of the gloom with a smile. Young Sanzi, since the work's done on Shangguan Feiyun's side, I have another task for you. Only there's trouble over there and you'll have to sort it out. Gu Santong gave a bored wave. Please, Uncle Dong, I just got back and haven't even seen Dad or Chiaoer. I want to look for them. Do you know where they went? The face reflecting in the faint candlelight was Serene Shores Trading's chairman, Wu Randong, only a more mature version of him. His rash and impulsive nature subdued, but now he was in his prime. Out there, you're one of the 5 Dharma kings, protectors of the palace, right below Palace Lord. You should know better than me as to where he is. While privately you are Palace Lord's son, even more reason you should know where your father went. Why ask me? True, I usually know where Dad would go on most occasions. He's either looking in the horizon, standing on the North Sea shore as he grieves for mother, or in seclusion, or, right, the sword shack. Clapping, Gu Santong laughed. I'll go see them right now. Wait, what is the sword shack? What about my task? Pausing in mid-run, Gu Santong looked back with a stern face. Uncle Dong, you may be my elder in private and I should help you, but this is a public matter. Do you find it wise to give me tasks then as your superior? Palace Lord gave me the right to mobilize 2 Dharma kings. Wu Randong looked respectful. Palace Lord said you're all grown now and strong enough to handle work before you make a mess of things and ruin Palace Lord's affairs. Uncle Dong, watch it. In the 100 years working together, when have I ever stirred things up? Palace Lord said you're a magnet for trouble and need to be shaped up. Gu Santong's face twitched, glaring at him, then walking out. I'll have Dad explain to me just how I am a magnet for trouble. I might have to trade a few blows with the old man. Don't try to stop me. Stop, don't think about running. Wu Randong grabbed his arm and sighed. Fine, since you're so dead set on it, I'll have someone else do the job. I bet the only reason you even took the job in Shangguan Feiyun's area was because of your grudge with him. You're the best, Uncle Dong. Don't get too excited. I do have a request though. Name it. So long it's not getting bored to death staking out someplace for half a year. Wu Randong turned grave and sighed. Could you ask the Palace Lord something for me? When will we go against the Sword Star Empire? Every time I raise the topic he just says the time isn't ripe and just to wait. Then wait. Dad must have had a good reason to say that. Don't you believe him? I trust the Palace Lord's judgment. I'm just sick of waiting. Wu Randong clenched his fists, his eyes burning with hatred. 100 years, that's how long my clan has been hunted down. As long as this hatred festers within me, I can never focus on Tao and cultivate in peace. I fear that I'll have to wait until old age takes me. Bailey Jingwei has restored the empire in this century and I see no hope in taking him down. That's why I kept asking the Palace Lord but always got the same answer, to wait and wait. Wu Randong gnashed his teeth at the end. Gu Santong stared hard at him, then patted his shoulder. Uncle Dong, Dad won't lie to you. He's just telling you to wait for the very best moment. The Sword Star Empire isn't the only one growing. We have been bolstering our power even faster. Wu Randong squeezed a nod. Sure, I'll ask Dad about it, don't worry. Then I'm off. Gu Santong patted his shoulder and turned to leave, but not before showing him a smile. Also, Uncle Dong, as an envoy, you shouldn't search for Palace Lord's location. Breaking Devil Palace's rules is a serious offense. I can overlook it for you, but you owe me. Gu Santong was gone, leaving Wu Randong to shake his head, his eyes deep in sorrow. A month later, a town lay on the border between western lands and the central area, Swordfall. It had a sparse population, but with how obscure it was on the border, not even a war would reach it. But with the coming of one man, its fate changed. None knew who he was or where he came from. Thus the people came to call him the Blind Swordsmith. The white ribbon never left his eyes, yet his refining skills were awe-inspiring. Many refining masters came to test their skills from leagues beyond, only to leave with hung heads from a mere glance at his spiritual sword. In his stay here, the only refining he did was of spiritual swords. That was how he got his nickname. He even led to the town changing its name, all because of one man. For the many master refiners coming here, all found that their spiritual swords paled in comparison to his. Many renowned clans and dignitaries came upon hearing the rumors, and met the Grandmaster. But the man was obscure and hardly ever saw guests. Even meeting him did not guarantee an answer, and threats didn't work too well. All that got a bit too pushy ended up missing. It drove respect and fear and all the rest. In time, those that got nothing, others that suffered too much, and those that had enough trouble for a lifetime decided to call it quits. The rumors around the blind swordsmith subsided to the level of a local attraction. He usually stayed in a small hut, with the word sword shack carved into a board on top. Ding. Crisp and short ringing sounded from the countless spiritual swords hung in the bamboo house. A girl of around 16 with long purple hair held a chilling white blade, taping it. "Dad, is this your latest work?" "It's called Ice Pine, a meter long, 9.5 kilograms, 5th grade spiritual weapon with a constant icy edge like an evergreen. Hence the name." A youth with covered eyes smiled as he spoke. "Shower, it's something I made right after deepening my understanding of the heaven-sealing sword's art. Sealing isn't as savage like sundering and soaring. It has a gentle nature that overcomes brute force and forces on countering attacks. It is not dangerous head-on but soft, making it most suitable for women." Shower lip up. "Dad, did you make it for me then?" Well." Zhuofan paused, chuckling. "Shower, as strong as you are, 5th grade spiritual weapons hardly matter, acting more like decorations. Also, I feel that your nature is more blunt when using spiritual weapons. You're better off with male types." Shower's face twitched. "Dad, I'm a girl. Don't you have any tact?" In that case I find a butch sword much better suited for you. You have a male air about you, ha ha ha." Pouting and whining, Shower stared daggers at him, hugging the sword to her chest. "I don't care, Dad. I want it. I've been around for 100 years now but only a few years ago reached adulthood. I am no different from a 16-year-old human girl. This sword should be Father's gift to me for coming of age. Your childhood sure is long, 100 years at that, haha. But the sword still won't fit you. I don't care. I want it and that's that. At least it'll prove to others I'm a girl. There's an easier way to go about that. Just don't move." "Dad," Shower whined, to which Zhuofan burst out laughing. A leisure voice then broke their father-daughter moment, soothing and sweet. "Is Senior Blind Swordsmith here? Could I ask that we meet?" Chapter 11:19, Old Friends. Chapter 11:19, Old Friends. Proofreader, Papatonks. "Now that's the voice of a girl in her prime, ha," Zhuofan teased. Shower asked, "Then you're meeting her, Dad? Have you seen me welcoming mortal guests this past 100 years?" Zhuofan shook his head, sighing. "I'm done with trifles. I only want peace in my sword shack so that I can understand the paths hidden in the four swords." Zhuofan got comfortable leaning back in his chair. Shower was puzzled. "Father, since you want peace and quiet, why not go someplace else? You've been known far and wide as the blind swordsmith for decades now and hardly have a few years alone. Now that another came to die, maybe the next years you'll be plagued by more suicidal fools." "Haha, then I'll continue killing them. I chose this spot, so why should I avoid them?" Zhuofan disdained. "Shower, drive them off or just kill them if they insist." Shower shouted, "Dad's not seeing anyone. Beat it." "Hey, the villagers were right about the old coot. So cocky to drive us out without even knowing who we are. Humph, I bet hearing our names will give him a fright, ha." A youth started making noise outside, rude and brash. But then another voice sounded, colder. "Sister Siphon, shall I go in there and throw the geezer out at your feet for his transgression? They're dumb as rocks." Shower chuckled in disdain. "Dad, we've seen enough of their type throughout these decades. Prissy, cocky and suicidal. Whatever, I don't feel like waiting for them to start. Let's just get this over with." Zhuofan just lay back in his bamboo chair, quiet. Shower stepped out for blood, to teach these fools who not to mess with who had real power here. The girl's voice turned angry this time around. "Quiet? How can you act like this? The Luo clan is all about honor and righteousness, while the Luo alliance is a model of compassion in the Western lands. It shall never besmirch itself by picking on the weak. Once Father hears about this, he's going to beat all of you to death." Zhuofan froze and his brow shook. Shower picked up on his change and halted. Her bloodthirst vanished and waited for his input. "Sister Siphon, we're just trying to help. Why so angry? You've come here dozens of times with earnest requests yet have been forced to come back sullen as the coot was away. Now that he's finally here, he's so stuck up that he won't even see you, like some ignorant fool." "Yeah, Sister Siphon, we're only thinking of the toil you endured on these journeys and only want to help you achieve your wish," the two pleaded. Zhuofan was stern inside. "So Luo clan's brats came here. Go figure. Is this fate? Haha. Regardless, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's his choice to see us or not. We cannot force him like a bunch of thugs." Chiding the two, the girl requested again, "Senior blind swordsmith, I am Luo Sifin, coming to you with an earnest plea. Please allow me to meet the generous senior on account of the dozens of fruitful visits." Qiaoer stood before the door waiting on Zhuofan. Zhuofan smiled, waving, "Have them enter. I'm quite curious to know how the Luo clan's descendants turned out." "Come in." Qiaoer waved and the bamboo door opened while she returned behind Zhuofan. After a loud cheer, the three entered the shack. The first was a chubby guy of around 18 of age with harsh features that twisted in disgust at the base and crude lodgings. The next was a lanky guy holding a sword, gilded and gem-encrusted, a noble no doubt. His angry and patronizing look turned into wonderment as he beheld the racks of dangling swords all over the place. They finally settled on respect as he looked at Zhuofan, even giving a bow. The third and last to come in was a girl, adorable and innocent, with a hint of childishness in her features. Upon noticing Zhuofan, she gave a hasty bow, stammering, "Es senior. I've overheard your nagging outside and you're the only one to act humane." Zhuofan smirked, nodding at her. The chubby guy snapped, "Say that again, geezer." The lanky guy's hand blocked him from trying anything. The girl glared as well, "Shut up or I'm telling your father." The chubby guy shrank, docile, though his eyes spoke of the hatred he had for Zhuofan. "Imbecile, the only reason you're still breathing after making a scene is because Dad knows you're seniors." Qiaoer gave him a patronizing look. Zhuofan ignored him, wanting to know how related they were. If proved negligible, humph. "Miss, I overheard you saying that you're from Luo Alliance. The same one in the Western Land's 9 sects?" "Of course, which other is there?" The chubby spoke from his high horse. "Well, old coot, afraid yet? The Luo Alliance is the head of the 9 sections. Even Double Dragon Manor is giving us respect, yet you dare to be so rude to us not to see us? That's a death act." The girl glared hard and stomped on his foot, making him squeal, "Quiet. Are you ignoring my warnings? Senior, please forgive us. I am Luo Sifin, daughter of Alliance leader Luo Yunhai. They're my friends. I ask that Senior overlook our rudeness." The girl cupped her hands again and bowed. Zhuofan gasped and lowered his head in thought. "Luo Sifin, as in Luo Mrs. Fan? So you're Luo Alliance's young miss? Then what about those fools?" "Who are you calling a fool, geezer?" They both barked. Zhuofan said, "You who else? Why do you want to hit me?" "Why you?" The two were fuming mad, but restrained themselves on account of Luo Sifin. Though they shouted still, "We look nothing like fools." "And I look like a geezer?" "They say you're an old guy. Then they say you're fools." "Who?" "Right, who?" "Villagers." "Qiaoer." The brats and Zhuofan went back and forth, with the two holding the villagers as evidence and Zhuofan pointing at Qiaoer for the perfect counter. "Since they say you're something, then Qiaoer as someone else, calling you a fool makes you one." The guys gnashed their teeth, faces red. How was using family as witnesses fair? Luo Sifin giggled, looking amused at Zhuofan, "As senior, please don't bother with them. It's my first time seeing a senior arguing with a junior. It's my first time seeing such rude youngsters." Zhuofan shouted, "Spit it out. What are your names? You're not going to say the Alliance head is your dad too, are you?" "Not exactly." The two spoke in unison, glancing at the blushing Luo Sifin glaring at them. Zhuofan blinked and asked, "What's that supposed to mean? Are you or aren't?" "Oh, sorry, my eyes aren't what they used to be and I didn't notice." Zhuofan cleared his voice and said, "A match of equal status, they say. So who do you think you are to give you the right?" "Humph, you really are blind as a bat, old coot. You wouldn't have asked about my right if you knew who my dad is." The chubby guy stuck out his nose way high in supreme confidence. "Allow me to tell you, I am of Long Jianshan. My father is a Luo Alliance elder, Long Xingyun. My grandfather is one of the 7 founding elders of the Luo Alliance. Long Yifei." Zhuofan finished, "Then you're from Tianyu's Veiled Dragon Pavilion?" The chubby one started at his words, "What nonsense is that? There's no such thing as Veiled Dragon Pavilion. I'm talking about Luo Alliance's elder. Long Jianshan, Dad said to me once that your Long clan was Veiled Dragon Pavilion before entering the Luo Alliance." Luo Sifin interjected. Long Jianshan blinked in confusion. "Really? Why didn't I know?" With the Luo Alliance's resounding name, all those obscure factions have lost their worth. Zhuofan shook his head. The trio looked oddly at him. Who was he really? These juniors hadn't known for a century while he knew every detail, including their history. Zhuo Fan was a complete mystery to them. Chapter 1120, Way of the Sword. Chapter 1120, Way of the Sword. Proofreader, Papatonks. Zhuo Fan pointed at the skinny guy. And who are you supposed to be? Another one from the 7 houses? I am Xian Yinyang, son of Xie Tianshang, great venerable of Sword God sect from Western lands. Grandfather is one of the 7 founding elders of the Luo Alliance, Xie Xiaofeng. He replied with instant respect, feeling the mysterious air around Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan gave a nod. So I see, descendant of Sword Marquis abode. Nianyang, missing Yang. Tell me, how's your uncle Xie Tianyang doing? Does he have any kids? Senior, father told me that uncle chose isolation in the mountains 100 years ago. We have heard nothing about him ever since. Grandfather is missing him greatly, which is why he gave me this name. The guy hasn't gone home in a century? He must be quite at ease then. Zhuo Fan shook his head, a smile of sadness and admiration playing on his lips. It felt so ironic how others managed to retire with their beloved while fate played cruel jokes on him, robbing him of such peace. The trio were confused, looking lost and probing. Senior, do you know our elders? Yeah, we have some history. Why else do you think I allowed brats like you to see me? Zhuo Fan nodded. Now, what do you want from me? Blind uncle, well. Blind uncle? I don't know how to call you, and with the villagers saying you're a blind swordsmith while close to our fathers, I took the liberty of calling you uncle. Please don't mind it. Luo Sifan looked around, playing the family card. If you do not like it, how may I call you? Xiaoer giggled. Dad, she's quite friendly except for the botched addressing. Taking it by rank, with Luo Yunhai seeing Zhuo Fan as a big brother, his daughter calling him uncle was right, though not entirely. It should be great uncle or some such title instead. Smiley face in Chinese, there are terms for every kind of uncle, coming from a younger brother, elder brother, from the mother's side, etc. Zhuo Fan didn't mind the details, waving her off. Girl, I saw you as someone from a noble family, but with you trying to cling so hard to me, it's like seeing the old me in you, ha. You sure take after your father. It's not from dad but mother. Luo Sifan blushed. Mom said I have to be so blunt and shameless to get in someone's good graces. It's how our clan rose. Haha, right you are. Your clan rose on the shoulders of others, and that rotten and shameless, ha. Zhuo Fan laughed, thinking of the good old days, feeling so carefree after all these years. Miss, just say what you want. I'll help how I can. Senior perked up and bowed. Thank you, uncle. To be honest, blind uncle, my dad's grand birthday is coming up in 2 months. I hope to offer a gift to him, but I came to see he has everything in the world. When I had been passing by this area, I came to know of Senior's extraordinary skills in refining spiritual swords. I have thus come to see uncle with this purpose in mind. My, you're quite a devoted daughter, going to such lengths for a mere gift. Zhuo Fan admired her. But then Zhuo Fan whined, that brat is already enjoying old age? What about mine? Dong. The trio's jaws hit the floor. What the hell? Brat? You're calling the Luo Alliance leader a brat? Who is he to be so rude to the strongest power in Western lands? Not even exalted double dragons dare slight him. Of everyone in the world, the one and only to call Luo Yunhai like that was Zhuo Fan. He'd call him like that even in his old age and the brat would have no objection. Luo Alliance's elders knew that when it came to right and pulling rank, Zhuo Fan had tons to spare. As for the trio here, they were oblivious to the true history of their Luo Alliance. They looked up to the Alliance leader and never saw anyone talk about him like that. Xiaoer chuckled at their dumb look. Dad, jealous much? Want me and brother to hold your grand birthday party? Whatever, I'm not old just yet. Stop joking about it. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes and shook his head, but to think that Yunhai brat is getting his grand birthday party. Thinking back to the first time we met, he was still in diapers, haha. The trio's faces twitched. Since he saw Alliance leader in his childhood, does this make him some core elder? No way, all big shots in the Alliance had status and power in the Western lands. As for this coot, he's but a 5th-layer profound heaven hermit with a daughter and a son. He's nothing like an Alliance elder should be. Back up. In the profound heaven stage and still in his 20s after a century? The only testament they had to his seniority was the villagers' word, that he'd been here for decades. Filled with questions, they just stared at Zhuo Fan with dumb looks. Zhuo Fan smiled, shouting, Miss, you want a sword? Take your pick. Thank you, blind uncle. Luo Sifan started, then nodded in joy, pulling Xian Yin-yang. Isn't your clan the best at swordsmanship? Help me look for a great gift for my father. Leave it to me, Sister Sifan. TCH. Xian Yin-yang perked up and nodded, going with her towards the many swords dangling about. Long Jianshan soured and huffed behind them. Upon a much closer look at the spiritual swords, Xian Yin-yang's heart jumped in amazement, his eyes gleaming. Have you had enough gawking? Just pick one and leave, humph. Long Jianshan grumbled, with Luo Sifan staring hopefully. How is it, Xian Yin-yang, have you found any good one? Amazing, simply incredible. All, without exceptions, are exquisite swords. What's really strange is the feeling I get from them. Like this first-grade spiritual sword looks far more precious than even a 9th-grade spiritual sword. I just don't know which to pick, a 1st grade or a 9th grade. The 9th, of course. You can't go gifting a mere 1st grade to clan head. Long Jianshan condescended. What sword clan are you even to not make such basic judgment? If you ask me, just take the highest grade and be done with. That's the 9th grade, right? Pick whatever and let's be off. But I feel the 1st grade is better. Rubbish, what 1st grade out there is better than a 9th grade? Are you touched in the head? Xian Yin-yang couldn't make up his mind, while Long Jianshan snapped back in annoyance. Sister Sifan, see that? This guy only knows how to brag about his clan swordsmanship, but he can't even tell the difference between 1st grade and 9th. Why did you go ask him for help? Ah, how utterly absurd. Want me to help you instead? No choosing is necessary, not when any one of my swords are perfect. Xian Yin-yang is confused precisely because he knows swords very well. Zhuofan smiled and walked among the dangling swords, tracing their blades. Swords are like people, unique and having character, be it 1st or 9th grade. Each sword has its own way. Not using the right way or skills with the sword, the wielder and the weapon grow apart, unable to grow or cooperate. The opposite applies just as well. Xian Yin-yang is hesitating between 1st and 9th grade spiritual swords since he is a true descendant of the sword Marquis abode. I forged that particular spiritual sword 3 years back. This 1st grade spiritual sword took me 3 months to shape it. Whenever I gain newfound understanding into the way of the sword, I forge from the 1st grade to the 12th. I repeat the process with every discovery to understand the sword's essence. This 9th grade only has a high grade while the sword way within leaves much to be desired. While the 1st grade one is far more suited for cultivation and enlightenment. Please, spiritual swords are nothing but weapons, tools. First time I'm hearing that weapons can help your cultivation. Long Jianshan dismissed the lecture with a snide remark. Zhuofan smirked, I was the same once. The ignorant will never get to see the truth. The sword won't ever open up to you, you who isn't going to see it as your friend. The sword is the king of weapons, it has its own pride. By not responding with sincerity, you will never see its heart. For this reason, many swordsmen have a shallow understanding of it. To go further on this path, one needs not just perception and talent, but also sincerity. Chapter 1121, Gift. Chapter 1121, Gift. Proofreader, Papatonks. Humph, you almost sound genuine saying that. In that case you must be quite along the way of the sword then, being so sincere and all. Long Jianshan's voice dripped with sarcasm. Just a little stronger than average. That's why you're halfway in the profound heaven stage while we sit at the peak of the radiant stage. So that's how. You went and wasted the past century on swordsmanship, crippling your progress in cultivation so much that the juniors overcame you by a mile. Long Jianshan felt so superior right then, brimming with pride. Qiaoer's eyes were icy, her mind holding nothing but scorn for him. Nitwit. Luo Sifan's glare bore into him. Long Jianshan, have you no respect for your elders? She then gave a deep bow in apology. Blind uncle, forgive him. He's been spoiled rotten. I offer my apologies in his place. No need. I've seen this chubby's belligerent and arrogant type these years, more than I could count. Zhuofan waved her off. I admit that most of the time the past century was focused on understanding the sword and I have stagnated my cultivation. I had no choice but to switch priorities. Having known nothing at all, I had to double my focus to answer that challenge. A profound heaven cultivator challenged? Tell me of your adversary and I'll handle it, no problem. Long Jianshan, enough. Luo Sifan preened, only to have Luo Sifan talk him down. Xian Yin-yang was more amazed by the second. Senior, I'm in complete awe by your glorious insights into the sword after deciding to focus on it, and so late too. I've never seen a more perfect spiritual sword refined even by a grandmaster. They look so alive. Hee, you got good eyes there to feel the life inside the blades. Yes, these years were all focused on understanding the sword by refining them. I would go through all 12 grades each time a new insight came. My stores soon grew to millions, while the spiritual swords themselves became more and more alive. Zhuofan took pride in that. I won't be long now. After my next breakthrough, I will be able to answer the century-old challenge. Long Jianshan's contempt couldn't be more obvious, says the profound heaven cultivator, wasting his cultivation on looking sharp. How are you going to fight as a corpse? Spending some little effort on keeping your posture as an elegant and refined man like me is fine. The problem with you is your bland features and being blind. Who are you trying to take in with just a younger face? I've gotten far in my youth and don't need to keep it. I just kept staying like this. That's the same as my mom and dad. Unlike Steward Zhuge and Uncle Li, they spent the last century still looking the same. Luo Sifan butted in to break them up. Long Jianshan mocked in complete denial. How is that the same? In this time, Alliance leader has grown to peak soul harmony stage. This guy used the same time and still not a day over 30 despite profound heaven cultivation. I bet he used all his efforts in keeping that lame face all along. The other two took careful peeks at Zhuofan. The higher the stage, the longer the life, with appearance following this trend over an even longer period. Just like how Luo Yunhai had thousands of years ahead of him as a peak soul harmony cultivator, and a mere century would feel like going through childhood by comparison, thus keeping those crow's feet and wrinkles at bay. While Zhuge Changfeng and the others were old to begin with before they received the chance from the Luo clan to bolster their cultivation with the help of sacred stones. They now had a long lifespan as well, but they started off late. They just kept looking the same since they never tried adjusting their appearances. Most men looked down on using such impractical and useless gimmick only a girl would care about. For women, looks were their life, going to any lengths to keep a pretty face. This was why most people that kept their youth in their later years proved that they had gotten far in their early years in cultivation, needing no touch-up. As for Zhuofan, a profound heaven cultivator, he looked nothing like the part of some past great achiever. Appearances could be deceiving, as Zhuofan had been using the true self art that regressed his cultivation, while his true level being at peak soul harmony stage. He only got so far, and not peak Genesis stage was due to switching focus on understanding the sword. Blind Uncle Long Jianshan has a foul mouth, but he does make sense. Since you have a challenge, you shouldn't have focused on your appearances and having no substance. Luo Sifan gave him a bright smile. Strength grows with cultivation. Tao is reserved for the peak experts. You should be hurrying. Oh, here are some sacred stones. Please take them. Luo Sifan already took some from her ring and offered. Zhuofan cut her off, looking unfazed as ever. Kids, Tao comes from the heart, not from one's cultivation. Regardless of the path you tread, inspiration and insight comes in a flash. Miss that brief and tiny window and it's never coming back. As for cultivating, that's much easier. With enough resources and time, the sky's the limit. I have spent the last century on the way of the sword and not cultivating all because I knew their value. How far the path lead is how much you can walk it, or you'll be left running in place. Teach, what right does a profound heaven cultivator have to preach to us? Long Jianshan scorned, with the other two flinching with lost eyes at the platitudes. Ding. Zhuofan's hand shone and an azure longsword appeared in his hand. The powerful aura it gave left the three ignorant children gasping. To this. Ever blue 1. 88 meters 4. 9 kilograms, symbolizing the auspicious number 9, the best of its kind. As the head of the alliance, your dad is upright first and foremost. He may have a royal air but is not forceful. Everblue connects one with the world, broadens one's kingly aura, focusing on grace and benevolence. It will be the best fit for your dad's Tao heart. Take it. Tracing the blade, Zhuofan offered it to Luo Sifan. After not seeing for so many years, this shall be my gift for his grand birthday. The juniors were blown away by the glorious azure the sword was giving. Their hearts were frantic, with even Long Jianshan's antagonistic nature cut short. It was like the sword enchanted them, unable to look away. Xian Yinyang finally cried out, a 12th grade spiritual weapon, a rarity in all the 5 lands and the most perfect kind. 12th? The other two jumped. Ha, I told you. I go through the 12 grades when refining after gaining insight. You can just take this one. Zhuofan threw it and Luo Sifan clutched it to her chest. A gentle wind blew at the trio, pushing them out of the shack. Don't tell your father about me and don't come over again. We're generations apart. Bam. The door slammed shut with the trio shaking all over. Then they turned to the sword with increasing awe. Since when could a profound heaven cultivator push us 3 radiant stage cultivators? It makes no sense. Their hearts sank and then Luo Sifin bowed. Thank you, Senior, for the great gift. I'll never forget it. I shall now take my leave and shall repay you one day for this favor. The trio walked away. She finally succeeded in getting a sword. With such a rare treasure, her dad ought to be ecstatic on his birthday. Xiaoer, we're leaving. Zhuofan sighed. Xiaoer asked, Father, didn't you say? The last of the 8 world wind tunnels is Sword Star Imperial Capital's Thunder Pavilion. The 5 land-wide recoil array is almost complete, waiting on the last tunnel to return us to Sacred Domain. Before that, I don't wish to disturb their peace. Zhuofan muttered. Xiaoer nodded in understanding. Savage energies came out of nowhere, sweeping the entire town. Xiaoer asked, such bloodlust can only come from a killer. What's someone like that doing in these quiet parts? Xiaoer, those ignorant brats showed off their new gift and invited trouble. Go help them. Zhuofan spoke. Xiaoer nodded and flew after the trio. While the blissfully ignorant trio were acting like they were on a field trip, constantly scrambling over who held the sword. Chapter 1122, Bald Demon. Chapter 1122, Bald Demon. Proofreader, Papatonks. Who do you guys think that Senior is? Does he have some connection with the Luo Alliance? Never getting enough of her new toy, Luo Sifin spoke of serious matters. Long Jinshan waved her off, as if he must have stayed a while in Tianyu and when it got bad he came to this neck of the woods. He just knows some stuff having lived so long. What could possibly be between some profound heaven cultivator and our great Luo Alliance? It's not even funny. It's too soon to tell. Xian Yinyang spoke seriously. I've never seen any profound heaven cultivator able to refine 12th grade spiritual weapons to such perfection. Not even with the most sublime skill or immense heart, could one achieve the same at such a low cultivation. Something doesn't smell right. Smells more like a dud. Profound heaven cultivators are a dime a dozen. He must have pushed us since we were out of it and caught us by surprise. It's the only possibility that makes sense. He said it himself, focusing on the sword this century and putting cultivation on hold. The way I see it, insights are for those super strong experts. So what the hell is he fumbling around for? Have you seen anyone besides our alliance's 9 venerables deepening their insights? No, they're all out there getting stronger. That may be so, but I still feel an air of deep mystery around the blind swordsmith. Xian Yinyang's doubts were prevalent, regardless of Long Jianshan's disregard. Long Jianshan rolled his eyes. You call that deep? He was only playing us? I refuse to believe there's anything worth of note about a cultivator stuck in the profound heaven stage after a damn century. As the two were opinionated, Luo Sifin nodded to herself. It's nigh impossible for a profound heaven cultivator to get close to anyone of status. Haha, a 12th grade spiritual weapon and a perfect one at that. I was out doing a little hunting and here I am with the catch of the century. A cruel and mad laugh jarred their ears. A bald old man landed not 10 meters from them, cackling, Missy, you sure have guts to flaunt a 12th grade spiritual weapon. You're practically begging to be stepped on by flaming others' greed. Hand it over if you know what's good for you. Luo Sifin shivered in fright, tightening her hold on the sword. Who are you? State your name. Yeah, do you have any idea who we are? Are you tired of living to go after our sword? Long Jianshan shook all over from the mighty aura the man had, but did not forget to flaunt his status. The bald elder placed his hands on his hips and snickered, Brats, better not be shaking in your boots at my glorious name. Listen well, for I am the infamous bald demon of the western lands. You're that degenerate bald demon that's been burning and murdering with no disregard for life? Luo Sifin shuddered. They say his crimes are endless and that the 9 sects couldn't even catch wind of him. Just what is he doing here of all places? Xian Yinyang bobbed his head. If he's the real bald demon, then he's in the 7th layer of Genesis stage. Few in our alliance are his match. This is bad, real bad. Haha, now you get it? Then hand it over. And while you're at it, the bald man's eyes shone with desire upon gracing Luo Sifin with a foul gaze. Miss, why don't we get to know each other better over a couple of days? I cross my heart not to keep you safe. What are you doing? Long Jianshan jumped to shield Luo Sifin, putting an obvious tough front with all that sweat pouring out of him. Do you know who we are? You dare touch us? Do you have a death wish? Oh, I'm gushing to know. Well, what makes you so special? Is it scary? Ah, the bald man was having a blast toying with them. Long Jinshan's face twitched, shouting, "Listen up and listen well. We are part of the Luo Alliance. You are in the presence of the young miss of the Luo Alliance head. Touch her and the entire alliance will be after your head." Luo Alliance's young miss? The old man eyes Luo Sifan closer. Long Jinshan smirked, "Afraid now? The hell I am." The bald guy cackled louder, "What's the Luo Alliance but some oversized gang in the western lands? Since their turf is out, I'll just go to the other 4 lands. Besides, no matter how tough the Luo Alliance is, they won't match the Devil Palace spanning across the whole lands." Devil Palace? The trio flinched in fright. Luo Sifan was startled. "Oh no, the Devil Palace?" Grandpa Zhuge said Devil Palace, a secret society, has been showing up over the past decades. It's teeming with experts. Luo Alliance can't match it. It's the strongest hidden power in the world. But they're so discreet that they haven't interacted with the powers in the western lands, nor do they want to have anything to do with these devils. But now this vile bald demon is from Devil Palace. We're so dead. The other 2 froze. These Luo Alliance princelings got used to throwing their weight around. Now, it seemed they got the short end of the stick because of it. They felt so sorry for themselves. Whoosh. 3 gales blew, rooting the 3 on the spat. The bald old man's lustful eyes drunk on the girl's figure as he walked over. "Luo Alliance miss, I've had yet to have the honor to sample such fine goods. Might as well get the girl and the sword, hi. His black hand reached out for Luo Sifan's delicate face. "Ah, what are you doing?" Luo Sifan shrieked, shedding a tear. The other 2 raged, "Stop right now, dirty old man. What are you doing?" "He calling me dirty yet asking me what I'm doing? Just giving her my professional courtesy, ha." Bald demon grew more excited at their squirming. Luo Sifan cried out in tears, No. Stop. Stop, you piece of..." Her friends were watching with bloodshot eyes, powerless to help. The 3 radiant stage cultivators were at the whims of a Genesis stage demon, his toys. Pah! A loud sound came out of nowhere, followed by a wail as the old man careened through the air. The trio jerked, finding they could move again. The old man coughed blood trying to get up on shaky legs and bellowing, "Who did that?" The kids flinched, finally noticing in front a most charming girl with purple hair staring at them with cold indifference. "It's you." The kids cheered. Rescue had arrived. What came as a shock was knowing the girl was the blind swordsmith's daughter yet had the power to send the Genesis demon flying. Just who is she? Chower ignored their googly eyes and demanded of bald demon, "Beat it. Lady, you must not know who I am to butt in, ugh." Bald demon was blustering after being attacked, only to choke on his words as he noticed the purple token. He shivered all over and stammered, "Wire Sparrow? I told you to beat it. Are you deaf? Or do you want to die here?" As the shiny bird token glimmered under the sun's glorious light, Chower's eyes grew icy. Gulping hard, the bald man bowed with haste and took off in terror. The kids could even see his soaked back as he fled. They turned their incredulous eyes on Chower. She just told off a demon rampaging in the western lands for dozens of years. Who on earth is she? How could a profound heaven swordsmith have such an overpowered daughter? Chower turned away. Luo Sifan rushed to say, "Wait. What? Thank you, miss, for your help. I shall never." Yeah, I'm only doing because Dad asked." Chower had no sympathy. "He told me to give you a warning. There's always someone better than you out there. Keep your belonging hidden and don't flaunt it. For you have no right to." Chower vanished, leaving the trio gaping. Holy hell, just where did we end up? Why do we keep bumping into worldly experts? And who the hell is that blind swordsmith? With the daughter incredible, the father must be. The trio's faces twitched, their faces burning in shame of how they treated Zhuofan. We acted like clowns. How mortifying. Chapter 1123, Imperial Capital Gathering. Chapter 1123, Imperial Capital Gathering. Proofreader, Papatonks. Dad, I'm back. Chower knocked before entering with a bright smile. Then she burst out in joy, "Brother, how come you're here?" Zhuofan was still in his chair, swaying, with Gu Santong sitting next to him. "Chower, is it wrong for a son to visit his father? Please, you think I don't know you? You just came to cut work. The only thing that changed about you is your height." Zhuofan patted his head as he joked. Gu Santong puffed his cheeks in annoyance, with Chower giggling at the side. Zhuo Fan turned serious. What happened? Who came? No one special, just one of our own from the western lands called Bald Demon. He saw the brats and greed and lust got the best of him. I already shoot him, don't worry. Bald Demon? Zhuo Fan's brow shook. That geezer has a bad name, doing every vile thing imaginable. Was someone after him that he came here? Chower shook her head. Can't be. The Western Lands envoy has tight control over them, avoiding conflict with the Western Lands factions. Bald Demon's heinous crimes are his alone. Coupled with his high cultivation, all factions in the Western Lands focus on self-preservation. They wouldn't go after him lest provoked. Or maybe someone's out there doing a world a favor by hunting this evil down. The thing is, there has hardly been any signs in Western Lands to point towards a manhunt. Strange, why else would he be caught dead in this barren place? Since hiding is out, then it can only mean hunting. Zhuo Fan asked, Chower, did he follow the brats? Shouldn't be. He's too impulsive and lust to hold it in for so long. Is it for me then? Zhuo Fan mulled. Well, isn't this interesting? My own men tracked their palace lord. Gu Santong widened and shouted, they have the nerve to look for palace lord? Are they ignoring their lives to breach the palace laws? Not by those honest disciples. They'd never try it. There must be someone else behind him. Zhuo Fan smirked. Chower young Sanzi, he shouldn't be too far. Let's go for a stroll. I'm curious to know why wants to see me so much, haha. Zhuo Fan stood and left the house with his children. Gu Santong exclaimed then, wait father. Uncle Dong wanted me to ask you when we'll begin the last step of the plan. Very soon. Touching his covered eyes, Zhuo Fan grinned. In the royal family's main hall of the imperial capital, Emperor Bailey Jingshi was at the head of a dozens of meters wide oval table. On his side was Prime Minister Bailey Jingwei, followed by the 9 sword kings. Only the farthest seat was empty. All eyes were on it, impatient. Shengguan Feiyun was the first to complain. Does he still think of himself as heir? What never? Thump. Faint footsteps echoed, followed by a familiar figure. Clap. Lone Arm Sword King, you finally grace us with your presence. We could never start without you, ha ha ha. Shengguan Feiyun ridiculed. The other sword kings held smiles of disdain. Only Bailey Jingshi sighed. The man sat in the empty spot. Bailey Jingtian had now lost his crown prince title, becoming the 10th sword king. The official title was Sword King Jingtian, while among the other sword kings he got dubbed Lone Arm Sword King, all because he lost the other at Zhuo Fan's fire. Bailey Jingtian looked with sadness at the empty sleeve. The crown prince was meant to inherit the throne, but there was no way a gimp would take that power. With little choice he was reduced to a prince. Bailey Jingshi was bleeding while Bailey Jingwei shook his head. What a waste of a good seed. With Sword King Jingtian present, let the 10 Sword King gathering commence. Bailey Yulei cleared his voice and began, holding no ridicule for the late comer, even using his official title, Prime Minister Bailey, what is the purpose of this meeting? Bailey Jingwei looked at them and spoke, Your Majesty, Sword Kings, due to my gross negligence, I have let evil run amok in our nation for 100 years. But in these many years, our nation is once again restored to its glory. The army filled its ranks, the people are wealthy, but the greatest disaster is now upon us. One that may very well be the end of our great nation. The men waited nervously for him to finish. Do you all remember the rise of that one great talent from the World War? He made me taste defeat for the first time in sullying the name of Bailey. Zhuo Fan. Bailey Jingtian spat through gnashed teeth. The rest were looking complicated, unsettled as well at the mere mention of the name. Bailey Jingwei nodded. It's this genius versed in politics and war that sent our magnificent nation on the brink of collapse 100 years ago, foiling the land unification plan. He has my complete respect, to be honest, as the only man I could never read. Fortune was with us that day, swallowed whole by the sea demon. I may regret losing such a rival, but I rejoice at world free of such a dreadful man. He got nods from everyone. However, while the devil has been purged, his poison remained, spreading into our nation. Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone, shouting, Do you all remember where he came from? Devil Mountain. Bailey Yuyun spoke up. Bailey Jingwei nodded. We heard of this mystery sect from his own mouth, unable still to confirm or deny it. Its influence, however, is unquestionable. In the past century there has been many forces using similar names, Devil Sect, Devil Island, Devil Group, Devil City and so on. They all wanted to use a dead man's name to garner power. We have crushed every last one of them, proving that those carrying the devil's name are nothing but liars. Unacceptable. What's more concerning is the small faction under 100 member having begun using this name: Devil Gang, Devil Stronghold, and even Devil Village. This poor imitations are preposterous. Of course we call them swiftly, but the momentum is to be feared. All want to make use of this terrifying legend and gather power to restore it. This affected our nation, worsening the century-long unrest far greater than I anticipated. There's no shortage of people believing we lost to Devil Mountain's disciple and thus took its name. It has stained the illustrious reputation of our empire. So, how much noise can a bunch of weaklings make? They'll get wiped out with a snap of our fingers. Shengguan Feiyun disdained. At worst they'll only make us work harder. No bug could change the way the world works. The other Sword Kings agreed. They're not genuine, only using the name. What's there to be scared of when the real Devil Mountain is not involved? Bailey Jingwei was, however, very serious when it came to these pests. I wouldn't have called all Sword Kings here if it were about some rabble. The crucial fact is that one of them gained incredible power. It has tight ranks and spread out, a force that the Five Lands have never seen. People, have any of you heard of Devil Palace? All froze, turning grave. Shengguan Feiyun even frowned. Devil Palace. A secret force growing since 100 years ago that has only just began to be noticed by the main factions of the lands. It's terrifying how secretive it is. Bailey Jingwei had never been more serious in his life. Chapter 1124, Threat. Chapter 1124, Threat. Proofreader, Papatonks. Some were doubtful, others looked grave or hesitant, but they all were thoughtful. Bailey Jingwei could easily guess their surface thoughts. Sword Kings, it would seem that you all have fought this mystery power inside your area but are unclear what it is. Allow me to explain to you all. Devil Palace first appeared in the lands at the beginning of the war 5 years ago, in a most befuddling fashion. Bailey Jingwei continued, do you recall the uprising in our nation? I've conducted investigations, sent spies, and finally confirmed that the very first to rise against us was the Devil Palace. Following it, fires broke out everywhere as other minor groups rose up as well, leading to a century of turmoil. Just as we began culling these dangerous elements, Devil Palace vanished into thin air before we could understand them or cause any real damage to them. However, they did not stop. While we were busy with other minorities going against us, they went after the rabbles to recruit them and gain power. So while the Sword Kings have been hard at work destroying these traitors, they were far from removed, turning into morsels for this one large faction, growing so much it can threaten our very nation. Bam. Shengguan Feiyun slammed the table. Curses, have we done nothing but do the work for them this past century? Just when we thought we removed the pockets of resistance, they just went over to the enemy's side. Yes, by using our unrest they only have to gain from it. Devil Palace is in a whole other league than those erratic rabbles. Zither Sword King squinted and rapped the table. He had one peculiar smile though. The others nodded, wary. Bailey Jingwei sighed. Devil Palace is exercising extreme caution, yet it used the Five Lands War in its favor as well. It then chose to bide its time over the coming century as it grew and grew. A radical idea came to me while thinking of it. The Devil Palace might be a real branch of Devil Mountain, having the same twisted mind as the dead Zhuo Fan. Everyone flinched, looking shocked to the core. You're saying Devil Palace is something he built, that he's still alive? No, he should be dead, ending up swallowed by the sea demon, but the beginning of these factions bears his signature. Bailey Yuyun cried in disbelief, with Bailey Yuyun shooting her down. This isn't happening only in the central area, but in every other land as well. All know perfectly well who directed the Five Lands War. Having lost this mastermind, how could the Devil Palace infiltrate the lands so quickly amidst the war? Now it grew into the largest dark faction throughout the lands, hiding in shadows. I refuse to believe anyone that claims he didn't have a hand in this. The others felt their hearts sink. Shengguan Feiyun clenched his fists. The devil spread his poison, giving us such grief even from beyond the grave. God damn him. Not damn him but fear him. At least with him dead there won't be some ingenious master plan with so many pawns at his disposal. It would have been disastrous. Bailey Jingwei felt a shiver down his spine and sighed. The defeat was a century ago, yet time did not help in easing the dread he felt at the mere mention of Zhuo Fan's name. Regardless, the mastermind may be gone, but Devil Palace is becoming a serious thorn in our side. I believe this goes the same for the other 4 lands. No one would ever tolerate anyone encroaching into their domain, especially one so dangerous. Bailey Jingwei's hand held a map, revealing it to everyone with all kinds of lines. This is the map of the 5 lands. And these lines represent the paths Devil Palace's people had taken over the last years. I just can't get a grasp of their intentions. They may be seen in one spot for a while, only to never come there again. Maybe they finished their job? Shengguan Feiyun asked. Bailey Jingwei nodded, turning dead serious. Yes, I thought so as well, but this only makes it worse. The typical dark faction would spread its influence while hiding its base. They're doing so, but to what end? Being in the dark about the other is the most terrible thing. The others were in full agreement. Also, Bailey Jingwei took another paper with an image that showed clear connections. This is something I deduced from a few confessions from the Devil Palace disciples we captured. According to them, Devil Palace has clear ranks, with the superiors and lower ranks in direct contact. The only unknown in this is the head, with none ever seeing him, only hearing of his title. Devil Palace Lord is a mystery person known only as the Dark Demon Lord. There's no witnesses, only rumors about his strength being beyond anything. He has Beast, Sparrow, Power, Fire and Ice as his Dharma Kings, and they are at the level of our 9 Sword Kings, if not stronger. Under them are the Sun, Moon and Star Devil emissaries, in control of the scattered disciples' tasks. Next are the small leaders, vile and vicious men with some repute in every land. They may be trouble for others but not for Sword Kings, mere fodder. They all looked on with worry and shock. Devil Palace has grown so big? That means no land can stand up to them but us. Bailey Yulei slapped the table. Prime Minister, is that map reliable? We all know those lands' leaders. How could they let so many savages run amok? It has to be an overblown rumor to drive fear into those idiots and attract more people. With the 5 Dharma Kings as strong as us, what will that make of the Palace Lord, on equal ground with Patriarch? There's no way. There might be though. Shengguan Feiyun looked on with a piercing gaze. A month ago I found a sneaky bunch in my area. I was about to get rid of them when this young man met me blow for 300 rounds. I overheard the others calling him Beast King. SSS. Everyone gasped and stared at him in disbelief, hoping to be some poor joke. Anything was better than the truth. A pity there was not a sign of humor on his feature. Those Dharma Kings are as strong as us. Shengguan Feiyun shook his head. I didn't know then where he came from, but now I am certain he's from Devil Palace. Moreover, Bailey Jingwei continued, there's a rhyme going around the lands. In radiant splendor, stars do gleam, / their light bathes all in a cosmic beam, / but as darkness descends, consuming all sight, / the stars' brilliance wanes, fading from height, / yet fear not, for the dawn draws near, / a quiet arrival, bringing hope clear. The men's faces twitched, the implication obvious. You're saying the Dark Demon Lord will crush the Empire's unification plan. The dark consumes the plight, bringing great change to the lands. Bailey Jingwei was a mask of rage. The rhyme is most definitely fake, coming from Devil Palace to worm into the populace's hearts. Swordstar Empire is not about to fall so easily. But rumors are scary and people hear what they wish. We need to squash Devil Palace before the rhyme spreads further and becomes reality. The situation is dire, everyone. Bailey Jingwei was dead serious as he finished. The others nodded, aware now of the crisis. The might of their nation was unquestioned, all due to the 9 Sword Kings. But with the rise of the Dark Demon Lord they felt the threat. Shengguan Feiyun said, Prime Minister, there's been something that's been bothering me for many years that I would like your input on. The invincible sword hasn't been seen for 100 years. What happened? The matter with Devil Palace is grave, yes, but once the invincible sword shows himself, none can stop him, right? The other 9 turned to him, curious. Bailey Jingwei shook and winced. Patriarch has been in seclusion for the past century to break through to a new stage that no human has achieved before. When Patriarch comes out, I believe you will see the birth of true unstoppable might. Chapter 1125, Ancient Promise. Chapter 1125, Ancient Promise. Proofreader, Papatonks. Then we'll be waiting for the good news. Bailey Jingwei was tight-lipped about it and the kings didn't ask either, left with their own suspicions. Bailey Jingwei looked drained, forcing a smile as he put away the paper. Everyone, that's the situation. I hope Sword Kings shall return to your designated area and fight back Devil Palace before they grow any stronger. I shall be drafting a plan in the meantime to remove this danger for good. I will notify you in time. Farewell, Prime Minister, Your Majesty. Shengguan Feiyun stood and cupped his head before leaving. The others did the same. The emperor couldn't help it and said, Jingwei, it's been 100 years already. We can't hide it anymore. They're suspicious and the cat'll be out of the bag. The bag must stay shut. Bailey Jingwei's brow shook, his eyes shining. Your Majesty, it'll be fine. I vow to have the empire to enjoy peace and stability for ages. The 10 Sword Kings left in groups, with Bailey Jingtian being the only one alone. Shengguan Feiyun took joy in scorning him for his lost arm, the one who used to be the heir, incredible talent, and a second invincible sword, turned out a mere prince. He sure has taken a huge fall this century, hee. Fate reaped the souls of 9 princes and left one with a handicap. They shouldn't have gone to the northern lands. Dan Qingxin sighed. They were all amazingly talented and would have grown into an emperor and many sword kings to help us in these trying times. Brother Dan, are you a fool? The more sword kings the Bailey have, the greater the danger we'll be in. We are now 4 and 6 and still hold some sway, thankfully. Hee. I'd wish to see them grow to their full potential. They couldn't stop me from going home anyway. Shengguan Feiyun snickered at the huge loss while Dan Qingxin just shook his head. Zither Sword King came over, smiling. Brother Dan, while I don't like Brother Feiyun's character, I still stand by him on this. Do you honestly believe with the rise of Bailey's younger generation that they'd let you go home? When we become obsolete, there'll be no stopping our execution. This is much better. The great clan now finds itself without posterity, all due to that war. The dead Zhuo Fan had to be Bailey's bane. We should thank him for that. The other 2 smiled. Brothers, we were right all along. The invincible sword is dying. A man rushed to their side, his voice low and hoarse. Did you see Bailey Jingwei's face? He lost his backing and confidence. Zither Sword King gestured to him for silence immediately, his eyes darting around. Wine Sword Immortal, don't just say what's on your mind. Before we ascertain the invincible sword status, you should keep it down lest you want to lose your head. What's the point of confirming it? The old coot's been gone for a century. Isn't that the biggest proof? The Wine Sword Immortal was utterly confident. You know fully well the old guy is grooming the juniors, always looking the best to train himself or let them understand the Sundering Sword. Have you seen any of that happen the last century, especially with the clan's future wrecked? It's obvious he dropped dead. Bailey Jingwei is just too cunning and kept it hidden to lord over us. Since he's dead, what are you guys planning? Will you keep staying around this dull place? The Zither Sword King and Dan Qingxin smiled. Stop with the nonsense. What if he's alive? Though he grinned widely still. Shengguan Feiyun was the only one unfazed, his eyes firm. Regardless of the invincible sword's fate or your choice, I will stay in the Sword Star Empire. It's the only one that can help me attack eastern lands and take everything. You're so obstinate. The 3 sighed. He just didn't understand what being a cultivator meant. It was all about understanding the world's nature, its Tao. Was it worth throwing it all away just so you become a tool? An official in a crimson robe approached them and bowed. Greetings, Sword Kings. Deputy Minister of War? Shengguan Feiyun gave the middle-aged man with grizzled sideburns a look, noticing him in the 5th layer of ethereal stage. Isn't the Ministry of War under Prime Minister? Why come to us? Yuan Yong bowed again. Sword King Feiyun, I have a matter that I wish Dragon-Cleaving Sword King would help in. With me? Dan Qingxin shook his head. Ha, do I know you? Sorry, but you don't look familiar. I'm not inclined to help random strangers either. Dan Qingxin turned away. The man rushed to stop him and revealed a scroll from his ring as he offered it. Sword King, please, do you still recognize this painting? This? Dan Qingxin's brow shook at the familiar paper, taking it and letting a long breath as he unfolded it. The man still bowed. Dragon-Cleaving Sword King, do you remember the promise you made in Western lands? That you will help the bearer of this painting in one matter. I know Sir's word is his bond, and I have traveled far and wide, through countless hardships to return this painting. I only ask whether the promise still stands after all these years. Lads of our nation. I made it in the name of love, and in love I vowed. How could I just break it? Dan Qingxin's eyes stirred, recalling a past long forgotten. He then folded it back and spoke. Talk, what is it you want? The man bowed once more. Sword King, I have nothing but respect to your dedication. I shall be honest, I am Yuan Yong from Western lands. I was a Qianyu Empire prince once, before a vile bastard took my power and hounded me too. Fine, I don't want to know about your past. Just tell me what you want. Sword King, I wish that sir would give me justice. Wipe out Tianyu and the Luo alliance with it. Yuan Yong spoke with bloodlust and malice. What? Danqing Shen widened. Eliminate Luo alliance. How did you become the deputy minister of war? How could you ask such a thing? Shengguan Feiyun sneered. I don't know anything about the Tianyu Empire, but I know of the Luo alliance's position in Western lands. It holds no less than half of Western lands' might. Asking Brother Dan to destroy it is like telling him to go against Western lands. Can Brother Dan agree? Danqing Shen nodded. Yes, Sword King Feiyun is right. My words are limited by my capability. I'm not strong enough to fight a land by myself. Sorry, but choose another. Dragon-cleaving Sword King, all I ever wanted in life is revenge. The Luo clan stole my country, putting a puppet on the throne while hunting me down every step of the way. I can never let go of such hatred. For this reason I have come to Sword King for help. Originally, a lofty man like a Sword King was beyond the reach of a nobody like me. I was fortunate enough that when the Five Lands War broke out, I joined the Central Area Army and rose through the ranks thanks to my service. It took me 100 years to walk into this palace and be fortunate enough to meet a Sword King today. Damn, such dedication, persevering for 100 years just to reach the status to see you. It's true what they say, the obsession for revenge can take you anywhere. Shengguan Feiyun chuckled. Times change, however. The Luo alliance was nothing a century ago. Brother Dan could have snuffed them out with a snap of his fingers. Now it's grown too large in the Western lands. You're asking Brother Dan to go on a suicide mission. Better wait for another war, then you could make use of your position to settle the score and get your revenge. Sword King Feiyun is right, but we all know the state of the empire. It's still restless and far from battle-ready. It may take another century if not more before it can wage war. I can't wait that long. Yuan Yong was impatient. Sword King, then the next best thing would be to take the head of the Luo alliance, Luo Yunhai. Without a leader, they're sure to crumble. At least this will give me some peace, what do you say? Well, it is doable. Danqing Shen mulled it over. Killing one man then coming right back isn't an issue. Sure, I agree. Yuan Yong bowed once more, filled with joy, his eyes showing obvious scorn. An hour later, Bailey Jingwei stood in a dark room. Yuan Yong bowed next to him. Prime Minister, everything's set. Danqing Shen is going. Good, I didn't hide your matter for a century for nothing. Don't worry, I'll let you take revenge yourself. Also, make sure to notify all the lands about Danqing Shen's actions. Yes, and thank you, Prime Minister. Bailey Jingwei nodded, a grin forming on his face. Rest assured, Patriarch, I'll make sure to remove every danger to the Empire's safety. Soon, the Sword Star Empire will shine like the sun, haha. The mad laughter bounced off the dark wall of the hall. Chapter 1126, You're looking for me? Chapter 1126, You're looking for me? Proofreader, Papatonks. Are you certain that the Devil Palace Lord is in there? 3 months flew by. The Zither Sword King was in a lavish hall, framed by a soothing light and in elegant clothes. A man kneeled before him, old and bald. Sword King, I've been scouting the Devil Palace for decades, while the Palace Lord's whereabouts are always unknown. But thanks to my broad experience these many years, I drew some conclusions at long last based on his known locations. I went there to try my luck and actually came to find one of the 5 Dharma Kings, Sparrow King. She and Beast King are the most common of the 5 that go with the Palace Lord. Her presence is solid proof that the Palace Lord is there in Swordfall. The Zither Sword King nodded and waved him off. Bald Demon bowed and took his leave. Well, I didn't know that the Zither Sword King wanted to see me so much, ha. A laughter sounded around. Then you ought to have a rough idea what my palace is about. Why go through all this trouble tracking me down for decades? The Zither Sword King and Bald Demon flinched, their hearts jumping in their chest. They whipped their head about and finally noticed the extra youth with covered eyes sitting in his Sword King throne, a playful yet insidious smile on his face. He had a girl and a youth on either side, staring them down like hawks. The tokens on their waist glittered in the light in a dazzling fashion. Bald Demon's eyes went wide, almost soiling himself as he stammered, Beast King and Sparrow King. Why, you're the Palace Lord? The Dark Demon Lord of the Devil Palace. Zither Sword King's brow quivered, caught by surprise at the sudden appearance. Then he turned grave. Zhuofan nodded. It would be a darn shame for all that effort tracking me down all those decades not to show up, don't you think? So I figured why not come to you and put you at ease, haha. Go. Bald Demon's knees were jelly, sweat pouring down like rain. He turned a pleading look to the Zither Sword King, waiting on his decision. Boss, you put me up to this. This is your turf, you gotta help me. The Zither Sword King had no time to mind his existential crisis, staring hard at Zhou Fan before taking out a Millennium Zither. He flicked his hands and a soothing melody sounded, releasing 7 sword energy straight at Zhou Fan. They say the Dark Demon Lord is beyond strong, at the peak of the world's strength. I would like to test my meager skill against your lordships, if sire deems me worthy. 7 notes obscure sword? Bald Demon lit up. How dare you? Qiao raged but Zhou Fan waved her back. Zhou Fan snickered from the Grand Throne. He didn't need to even move as a shield formed around him. The 7 strikes backed by the power of a Sword King fizzled out on contact. They couldn't even get the shield to shake. Even a 3-year-old was stronger. Zither Sword King's eyes shook from shock, his spine taken with a chill. The Dark Demon Lord is beyond monstrous. My 7 notes obscure sword couldn't so much as touch him, cancelled out like nothing. This can't be happening. Bald Demon was gaping wide, his eyes bugging out. His innards, however, writhed in regret for going after such a ludicrous expert like the Palace Lord. Not even a Sword King's attack could make him flinch. Since it was out that he was the Zither Sword King's spy, then his life was forfeit, especially since his boss couldn't save him. He felt like crying then and there. The thrill of doing all he wanted in the lands for being under the Zither Sword King got to his head. He thus disregarded the Devil Palace Lord and his kings, taking them for overinflated rumors compared with the might of a true Sword King from the central area. Why else would they stick to the shadows and be so sneaky about it? Reality though proved otherwise. Shit. They're insanely strong. You call yourself a Sword King when you can't even get him to twitch a finger? Bald Demon bowed at once to Zhou Fan. Spare me, Palace Lord, I had no choice. The Zither Sword King made me. Please. Sword King, did that suffice your curiosity? I now have a little curiosity of my own and was wondering if you could tell me why would you insist on going through such lengths to find me out. Of the 10 Sword Kings, the Zither Sword King is the most casual and relaxed of them, not going out of your way. My people had an easy time working in your area as well, making me not even see the Zither Sword King as an enemy. Ignoring the background noise, Lu Mubai had Zhou Fan's full attention and smile. The Zither Sword King chuckled with joy, before all mirth vanished like it never existed. I am grateful for the Palace Lord's indulgence, but before I answer, would it be presumptuous of me to ask the Palace Lord something? With the Devil Palace spread throughout the 5 lands, do you have any intentions to take down the Sword Star Empire? Yes. Zhou Fan was quick to reply. Why? It's in my way and has to be removed. Zhou Fan was as earnest as he was serious. Zhou Fan needed to set up the recoil array that ran through all the lands. Sword Star Empire held power in the central area and was sure to interfere with his project if left be. It's not like I can waltz in saying, hey, let me set this up real quick and I'll be on my way. Why? Be it territory or assets, all were based on power. Why would anyone talk with you when you had nothing to your name? And in the case you had the power, why waste time with empty chatter when taking was so much easier? For himself and his goal, Zhou Fan had to take the empire down. All that was left was for the right moment to avail itself. Zither Sword King stared hard at him and noticed the truth. He smirked, his eyes shining with hope. Then I can be frank with the Palace Lord as well. Let's work together. Qiao and young Sanzi shared a curious look, while the bawling Bald Demon choked on his tears and snot as he shot a wide look at him. Boss, are you high? You didn't send me after him to take him out but to cooperate? What the hell? Why? Zhou Fan saw it coming, judging by the flat look. Give me one good reason why I should trust you. We have the same goal, you and I, the demise of the Sword Star Empire. The Zither Sword King sighed. Before the Sword Star Empire came to rule the central area, it was the Lu clan that wielded Sundering Sword, my clan. The invincible sword challenged everyone left and right, rising above us all. He is indeed a genius, becoming unstoppable even before he got to understand Sundering Sword's art, able to take it by force from my clan. Then the Sword Star Empire grew and swallowed all of the central area. Any dissidents were culled and my clan was left to decay. But the hope that one day we might recover the Sundering Sword and destroy the empire was passed down through generations all the way to me. My little insight into the Sundering Sword art was all thanks to my ancestors, allowing me to rise to the rank of a sword king and into the heart of power. It may be ancient history, or perhaps the invincible sword had defeated too many experts for him to remember me as well. In any case, he has no suspicion of me. I have stayed all this time as the Central Area's sword king for the right timing to get back at them. So you came for me? Yes, I noticed the Devil Palace decades ago, quicker than anyone else, and knew therein lay my chance. I just didn't know how far it would go or grow enough to threaten the Empire. For this I planted a spy to observe. The Zither Sword King was excited. I'm glad to know the wait was not in vain. The Palace Lord is a heavenly genius. In a century you set up a faction that can fight with the Empire's 10 Sword Kings. While Lordship yourself are even unmatched. I am now certain that with both of us working together, the Empire will fall. Chapter 1127, Aged Birthday. Chapter 1127, Aged Birthday. Proofreader, Papatonks. Chower and Gu Santong shared a look. Bald Demon was looking stumped as well. Why? So all that spying was so he could join hands with the Palace Lord. But aren't I from the Devil Palace already? What joining? He always felt that he had been a double agent, only to find out he was just a simple one since both sides wanted to work together. What was the point of even doing all that then? So the two could mediate? Zhuofan paused for a long time before shaking his head. I appreciate the Zither Sword King's thoughts, but the time isn't ripe. Seeing Sir so anxious, it will make our cooperation stifled. Fighting alone would be preferred. Why the hesitation, Palace Lord? Many reasons, starting with the Empire still holding strong and would only prolong a war. Or in the case of a win, my palace will come into the light and draw the eyes of the other lands, putting us in danger. As for the most crucial reason, the odds are slim at best. Why do you say that? Zither Sword King shook. Zhuofan said, the invincible sword. Him? Zither Sword King scoffed. Palace Lord, the old guy hasn't been around for a century. If not dead, then on his deathbed, frail and weak. Have you seen him? Zither Sword King paused at the question, hesitating. Bailey Jingwei and the Emperor are the only ones who know his condition. The Zither Sword King nodded. True, he's not about to let it spread, especially when there's so much danger lurking about. Zither Sword King, they say you're quite casual, but now you're acting against this info. Is it on purpose or made so? Filled with nothing but hatred, you'll be prone to anxiety and rash decisions. We shall not be cooperating, goodbye. Zhuofan stood and walked out with Chower and Gu Santong at his sides. The Zither Sword King rushed. Hold on, Palace Lord. That's not an issue. I've waited for so long and can still wait for a few more years. Sword King, you might say that, but that is your nature. To be frank, I don't want dead weights. A man that has no control over himself and only seeks revenge can never achieve anything. Then how can we cooperate? Zither Sword King's eyes shook. Zhuofan paused. Sword King, you're a smart man and should know that cooperation isn't limited to joining hands. Being on the same page will suffice. While our aims differ, our target is the same. Knowing this, you can tell how we can work together, ha ha ha. Zither Sword King was silent. About that rhyme of yours, make another when you have the time. Zhuofan waved and left with his children. Zither Sword King winced and sighed. Dark Demon Lord is so peculiar. Bailey Jingwei has met his match again. Sword King, so you? Bald Demon stuck to his side. But then his body turned into a bloody mist, drifting away. The Zither Sword King relaxed his hand, no shift in features at all. You know too much. Father, how should we deal with that traitor, Bald Demon? The trio walked among a busy street, with Gu Santong feeling annoyed as he looked back. Zhuofan dismissed his worry. That's no traitor but a spy, one that hid for decades in my palace. Lu Mubai owns him and he isn't about to worsen our relationship over one small trifle. Lu Mubai is bound to clean up. Let others take care of their dogs and not undermine their authority. Wah. He knows too much. Would you have left him around to leak the private meeting with the Devil Palace Lord if you were in his shoes? Haha, Lu Mubai planned on removing him the minute he was open about his intentions. Zhuofan grinned. Young Sanzi nodded. Chower asked, Father, were you just talking about the rhyme that spread across the lands? It sounds like we're trying to ruin the empire. Did Lu Mubai spread it? Should be. Zhuofan nodded. I picked up from his speech that he is fixated on seeing the Sword Star Empire burn, and the rhyme came to me as a borrowed knife tactic. He knows we have the strength to oppose it, so he let the rhyme spread and inflame the hatred on both sides. We could have had no intentions for the Empire for all he cared, because now we're enemies for sure. He's only working with us to make sure the Sword Star Empire is done for. Sometimes rumors are worse, especially one like this that gets on the nerves of a ruler. The two of us are now fire and water on a collision course. I don't mind him doing this, but I hate being used. That's why I mentioned the rhyme at the end, to gauge his reaction, whether he was behind it or not. But also to warn him that I know and not to get smart with me. I have the final say and I'm not about to play his game. Young Sanzi and Shower nodded. Hey, did you hear? Dragon-cleaving Sword King is going after the Luo Alliance leader in Western lands. Do you think he has any chance? A Sword King targeting the Luo Alliance leader? Isn't that so low of him? He has his status to think about. How is that low? They say the Dragon-cleaving Sword King's decision has nothing to do with the two lands. It's to fulfill a 1,000-year-old promise. Someone brought him the lost painting and asked for revenge for the imperial family a century ago. This is their world. The four lands could know about it as well, but I don't think they'll intervene since it's not about the two lands. But he's the pillar of Western lands. With him gone. And he's part of their world too, and no one can run from resentments. With the Sword King stepping in, even with millions of soldiers, the Luo Alliance leader will die. It'll be child's play for a Sword King to get their head, go for him and not waste time on the soldiers. Right? A particular gossip pierced Zhuo Fan's thoughts. Zhuo Fan shuddered and his brow tense. Dan Qingshen is going after Yunhai. Father, should I go stop him? Young Sanzi offered. Zhuo Fan raised his hand. Something's not right. Why does the whole world know of Dan Qingshen's plan to kill him? Father, what do you mean? Suspicion comes from trickery. Dan Qingshen has always been quiet, while the one asking the favor wouldn't have let it leak to warn them. Celebrate after the job is done. Or is he so sure Dan Qingshen can do it? Zhuo Fan mulled it over and then said, Xiao, young Sanzi, find out the Five Lands' reaction to this. I'll stop old Dan myself. I fear this was a trick all along. The two bowed, yes, father. In Blackwind Mountain, the base of the Luo Alliance, the main hall was decorated for a special occasion. Alliance leader Luo Yunhai's grand birthday, oblivious to the imminent danger. Experts and renowned guests came from all over, with every figure in the Western lands present here. Even the 9 sects were here to offer respects. Luo Alliance leader, may you live long and happy. Sect leader Li, come, sit. Luo Alliance leader, you give me much favor welcoming me yourself. Clan head Zhang, it's only proper. Succumbing to my birthday is the real honor, ha. Luo Yunhai and Yuer were in front of the hall, greeting the many guests with a stiff smile. He sometimes glanced at Yuer, giving a bitter smile. Yuer, is 150 years old worthy of a grand birthday? I said not to hold it, but you insisted, and now look how much a pain it is. Whose fault is it if not yours? Yuer rolled her eyes, giving him a sharp look. You wanted to wrest for power since a century ago. For that purpose we need to make connections, and a grand birthday is the best occasion. Steward Zhuge said it himself, a small celebration every 5 years with a large one every decade. Making sure to invite all with renown in the Western lands, increasing from one event to another while using the upright conduct of the Luo Alliance to sway the people. Sure, a grand birthday is a hassle, but you can't deny its effects. These decades, not only has the Luo Alliance been growing swiftly, but Deer's voice has gained more and more weight in the Western lands. Better than the Double Dragon Manor, who stays closed up for years on end. I believe that the 9 sects trust Deer far more than the Double Dragon Manor. Steward Zhuge's plan worked like a charm. Luo Yunhai's smile fell and nodded. Yeah, their work has excellent results. Luo Alliance has gained more and more friends. I'm just sad that you have to go through the toil with me. Dear, it's my job. Yuer blushed with a sweet smile. Luo Yunhai looked around oddly. Now where did that girl run off to now? Chapter 1128, Malcontents. Chapter 1128, Malcontent. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yuer looked around curiously. Yeah, where is she? I don't see her gophers either. Who are you calling a gopher, Yuer? A tall middle-aged man walked over with a smile. Ha, that brat has been taken by your charming daughter for years now, always after her like a lost puppy. You just can't drive him off either, just like a shadow. Why not just seal the deal already? Yuer's face twitched and huffed. You wish. How's your son fit for my daughter? Luo Yunhai laughed. Brother Xingyun, Sifan and Jianshan are still young. Let's give them a couple more years. How are they young? Long Xingyun chuckled, looking hopeful. Brother Yunhai, our friendship began since Tianyu. We built the Luo alliance together. The two grew up together, childhood sweethearts that only have eyes for each other. Why not make it official? Ha ha ha. What eyeing each other? My daughter barely even looks at him. Yue gave him a dark look while Luo Yunhai chuckled. Long Xingyun, after all this time, I see you're as rotten as ever. The whole alliance knows of your son's incompetence. How can he be a match for the Luo clan's pride and joy? Someone shouted in the distance. Who said that? Who insulted my son? Long Xingyun snapped back only to snort at the speaker. Well, what's it to you? You're not part of the Luo alliance anyway, so don't butt in. Thump. A cold-faced middle-aged man stepped closer, with a split mustache and flickering eyes. His stare pierced hearts. He was the head venerable of Sword God sect, one of the 7 founding elders of Luo alliance, Xie Xiaofeng's eldest son, Xie Tianshang. He began with a gesture of respect to Luo Yunhai, offered his gifts, then turned to Long Xingyun. I may not be, but my dad is. My son grew up in the alliance as well. You can say anything else, but when it comes to the junior's marriage, I have to speak my mind. What the hell does that have to do with you? Everything. My son thinks the world of the Luo clan's daughter. Xie Tianshang cupped his hands again. Brother Yunhai, I've always been fascinated by swords and failed to guide him. Thank you for always looking after him. Now that he's all grown up, I wish to fulfill my duty as a father. Seeing his honest intentions for your daughter, I would like to make the humble request for her hand. Luo Yunhai and Yue lowered their heads in awkward silence. And another showed up for marriage. Then I won't impose and make it hard on the Luo alliance leader. Long Xingyun sneered, saluting Luo Yunhai again. Brother Yunhai, that settles it then. Let's discuss the details later. Curses, how is that settled? Get lost. Xie Tianshang shoved Long Xingyun aside and took his place to offer his sincerity to the two. Long Xingyun replied with a kick. You left Tianyu, yet you meddle into Tianyu's matters still? The two old friends started bickering like biddies. Though never resorting to violence, the scene they made wasn't any smaller. Luo Yunhai shook his head, helpless. Sword God sect leader has arrived. The herald shouted, and when Tao smiled as he saluted, taken back at the display, Venerable Xia Wai. Senior brother. Xie Tianshang's face twitched, stopping the quarrel. When Tao looked at the two and cracked up, how lively. Venerable Xia, you're so relaxed now that you're home, unlike your stern attitude in the sect. Xie Tianshang rolled his eyes, yet he had a smile on his face. Sect leader, when it's been ages. Luo Yunhai cupped his hands. When Tao waved off the excessive courtesy. Please, we're all brothers here. There's no need for that. I remember like yesterday how the Luo clan kept me safe on the front lines of the Five Lands War. It's only natural. The Luo clan has joined the 9 sects before, all due to sect leader Wen's support. We had all done it for Brother Zhuo while you saved my life. They can't compare. Anyway, we became family from that moment on. Brother Luo, congratulations. When Tao cupped his hands again, Luo Yunhai returned the gesture with the same joy and sincerity. Hellion Flame sect leader Yen Mo and Ultimate Clarity sect leader Wu Qingqiu have arrived. The two stepped lightly to the bustle, with Wu Qingqiu laughing. Brothers, you're all here. I see that we're late. I'll drink to make up for it. Yunhai, congratulations. I would have held my own grand birthday, but we're all sects leaders and no longer part of the secular world. At the very least, I get to meet with my sworn brothers, ha. Yen Mo smiled and nodded, offering his respects alongside Wu Qingqiu. Sect leader Wu, don't joke. How can the mundane world's customs be of notice to the secluded sects? Luo Yunhai joked. When Tao asked, what of Yi Lin? You still haven't found him after all these years? With Zhuo Fan gone, he's at the top of Western lands. When Tao gave a thumbs up. Don't remind me. Ever since the war, little junior brother vanished mere days after returning, and I haven't heard from him since. When Tao sighed, many seniors have been missing since the war as well. It's as if they all went into seclusion after, no longer concerning themselves with fame and riches. The men shared a look and sank into silence. The Four Lands had lost most of their forces and only grew further apart from the central area's level. Please sit. As it's my grand birthday, let's not talk about sad matters. Why not join me in drinking our fill? Knowing their worries, Luo Yunhai smiled and proposed to pull them out of their sorrow. The men laughed. Let's. The guests kept pouring in well into dusk. Zhuge Changfeng and Leng Wuchang looked over the gift list and shared a frown. Stewards, what's wrong? The two bowed. Young miss. Luo Yunchang took the list and smiled. 9th grade pills, 10th grade spiritual weapons, 11th grade ingredients. The gifts have only been increasing over the decades. Yunhai is starting to get their attention, ha. Yes, but it's too soon to tell if it's for good or worse. Zhuge Changfeng sighed. Luo Yunchang was puzzled. Zhuge Changfeng bowed. Young miss, we've anticipated this outcome ever since clan head decided on moving up the ladder at all costs. What outcome? Double Dragon Manor is malcontent by the year. Zhuge Changfeng sighed. The Luo alliance has enjoyed a swift growth over the century, winning many hearts. With the western lands having a bleak future, Double Dragon Manor couldn't be happy. The first half of the century, clan heads' birthday parties all had an envoy from the Double Dragon Manor, offering encouraging gifts. Later on, as our alliance gained clout and the western lands followed us more and more, Double Dragon Manor gave us the cold shoulder over the next 2 decades and lessened their gifts. The last 30 years there hasn't been any, the period marking the peak of our influence. It came so that when discussions of defenses were held, the Double Dragon Manor was bypassed and the 9 sects discussed it only with us. It is no different from going over an emperor's authority in his court and getting killed in the process. Luo Yunchang's brow shook. You mean Double Dragon Manor wants Yunhai? No, it has yet to come to that. Zhuge Changfeng refuted. The Luo alliance is vital to western lands. Be it from reasons or excuses, Double Dragon Manor would never move against us, unless they want to lose their status in western lands. The world of practitioners has its own rules. Without a good reason for war, they would earn everyone's disgust and hatred. Double Dragon Manor wants to rule western lands and won't violate this. Alas, they have their eyes on us to find our weakness. The minute we do anything out of line, they'll capitalize on it. So the fiercer things get, the more collected we must be and avoid any trouble. Luo Yunchang nodded and sighed. This is Yunhai's choice and has to bear its burden along with its dangers. Zhuofan had told him so before he left and must be ready for it. Clan head is indeed ready to reach the top. It's very similar to Steward Zhua. True, his guide has been Zhuofan all along. Luo Yunchang looked at the sky with a radiant smile. Chapter 1129, Party Crashing. Chapter 1129, Party Crashing. Proofreader, Papatonks. In the bustling hall, with everyone taking seats, Luo Yunhai arrived at his seat with his lady. He saluted everyone with a smile. Sect leaders, venerables, clan heads, elders, it is an honor to have all of you at my humble birthday. The Luo Alliance thanks you, as does everyone here. The two bowed. Luo Alliance leader, you're too kind, haha. The festivities began with the guests returning the gesture. Luo Yunhai said, as only a few days ago the 9 sect leaders and I have discussed the border defense, the celebration has been rushed. I only hope that you may overlook any slightness. The two bowed again. Please, Luo Alliance leader, it's no trouble. Everyone was modest. Luo Yunhai was very nice, but all the veteran cultivators picked up on his meaning. His talks with the 9 sect leaders for the border defense showed the Luo clan's status, that of the marshal over all of western lands, while calling the 9 sects fellow brothers, showing their close ties. The position was special and also firm, making so any that was discontent would be shooting himself in the foot, and his future in western lands. Such forceful declaration coming from Luo Yunhai was seen more as courtesy and benevolent. We're strong but not oppressive, respectful and thoughtful of all opinions. Or the two bows to every guest would not have happened. It made everyone want to be friendly and to respect the Luo clan. By exercising their power, it would only shun the guests away. Luo Alliance leader showed that while strong, he was mild and put their minds at ease. Luo Yunhai watched the prevalent smiles in every direction with a pleased look. Luo Alliance has gained even more friends. An obnoxious laughter then broke the jovial mood. Haha, it's Luo Alliance leader's big birthday but I wasn't invited. Sir, you can't go in. Sir. Beat it. A 3-meter-tall elder with white hair strutted into the hall following the clamor outside. Next to him were 5 youths, fierce and, judging by the unrestrained aura, in the Genesis stage. The guards tried stopping them but were just shoved aside. Some guests were startled and whispered, Qin Society head Qin Hao? What's he doing here? Isn't he on bad terms with the Luo Alliance? He must have come to ruin the party. This is going to be good. The guests went silent and resumed observing the two. Alliance leader, they insisted even as we tried to stop them. It's fine, you may go. The guard rushed to report, but Luo Yunhai dismissed him. He then turned to the old man with cupped hands. Society head Qin, to what do I owe this most unexpected visit? Yeah, we didn't invite you, sir. So what warranted this forced arrival? Luo Yunchang stood up with cold eyes. Qin Hao chuckled in derision. Young miss, I know of your willful nature, but to think you'd not even show respect on your brother's birthday. In any case, our clans, we are the largest two groups in the Western lands. Shouldn't the Luo Alliance leader have invited me as well for his birthday? I was doubtful if maybe brother had misplaced the invitation since you have been so busy with the border and neglected many things. No matter, for here I am to wish you a long life, haha. Humph, we don't need copycats like you around. Luo Yunchang mocked. It seems society head Qin expected the feeling to be mutual. Sorry to disappoint. Many of the guests weren't so discreet in hiding their laughter. Qin Hao's face fell. All of Western lands knew that the Luo clan was the first to start a clan alliance, having built it to be the strongest. All the others that came later were imitations, shaky and hardly effective. Except for Qin Society, trying its damnedest to stick close to Luo Alliance's model. In the eyes of all, however, the first was a hero, while the second a ne'er-do-well. Bringing another plate is of no import. Luo Yunhai chuckled and gestured. Qin Hao gave a look of scorn, not following along. It's not that I don't appreciate it, but seeing how Alliance leader Luo does not wish to see me, I shall leave. But having seen Alliance leader Luo after a long time and on your birthday no less, I couldn't leave without giving a gift. Men, present the gift. Yes. A rugged man bowed and offered a 3-meter-long redwood box after taking it out of his ring. Luo Yunhai looked hard at him, trying to find his angle. Qin Hao's eyes held a savage glint, waving and opening the box to let a flood of scarlet blind the audience. After adjusting to the gaudy show, the people gasped, a top 12th grade spiritual sword. This is my gift to Alliance leader Luo, a treasure fit for a hero. Please accept it, Alliance leader. Qin Hao sneered, giving a mock bow and challenging him with his eyes. The hall exploded in whispers. A 12th grade spiritual weapon is a rarity. Where did he get his hands on such a treasure? Such a high-quality spiritual weapon is a marvel for every land. Even Double Dragon Manor might not have them. I bet even the central area can't have more than a couple. As for the other lands, it's hard to say if they even have one, let alone a top one. All guests turned their eyes to the dazzling scarlet light show in awe. Luo Yunhai was also taken aback. Clan head Qin Hao has come to crash the party, that is certain. Double Dragon Manor must have put him up to this to curb our growth. It's clan head's birthday, and if you can't take the limelight, the Qin Society will only grow more outrageous as more social climbers would suck up to him. Lung Wuchang whispered in Luo Yunhai's ear. Luo Yunhai nodded and took in the awe on the guests' faces. He came here to show off so he could poach my allies. I need to stop him or the Luo Alliance will lose to him. The 12th grade spiritual weapon, even top quality, isn't the point here but grasping the hearts of the people. But what could he do to fight him on this? Luo Yunhai turned to Qiu Yanhai, whispering, Elder Qiu, you're the best at refining in the Alliance. Do you have any masterpieces? Clan head, I am a refiner, but only in the 10th grade and can make an 11th grade at best. I have nothing that can compete with a top 12th grade spiritual weapon like that. Qiu Yanhai was put in difficulty. Luo Yunhai sighed, glaring at Qin Hao yet having no solution. Wu Qingqiu shook his head, whispering to Wen Tao, I heard Double Dragon Manor isn't as welcoming with the Luo Alliance, so they turned to Qin Society to keep them in check. The rumors are true, I see. It's the only explanation for the Qin Society's recent rise. Even if Double Dragon Manor hadn't given such a treasure to the Qin Society, just based on their value, they would never show it, let alone gift it. It's like giving up a part of themselves. People only look at gains and losses. Taking out a 12th grade spiritual weapon to strike at Luo Alliance shows that Double Dragon Manor is on the move. Wen Tao sighed, but is Double Dragon Manor what it used to be? Tisich, no one was there to threaten Double Dragon Manor. Now that there is, of course it changed. Luo Alliance isn't dangerous in its growth, but in its commercial dealings with all the lands, using sacred stones as currency. Luo Alliance has outgrown Double Dragon Manor, making the latter pointless. Double Dragon Manor has no choice but to switch tactics to gain western lands under their control. Haha, I now see why Brother Zhuo warned me to step away from the corruption of the mundane to reach Tao. Wen Tao nodded and sighed, looking disappointed. Chapter 1130 Shock and Awe. Chapter 1130 Shock and Awe. Proofreader, Papatonks. Qin Hao looked at everyone's shocked faces with a vile smirk, cupping his hands to drive in his disdain. Everyone, I've picked out Pyrocloud with nothing but care to give the Alliance leader. I couldn't just bring something random, not at such an important event as a grand birthday. Curses, there's hardly any 12th grade spiritual weapons in the world and you say you're careful? Like you own piles of them, damn show off. The people grumbled inside, but the glittering spiritual sword pulled their heartstrings harder. Qin Hao was acting like he just came into new money, though it did come with perks. Upstarts were blinded by money and would guarantee to get all his buddies' stuff too. No one was a saint, so in times when one needed help, they would be more than happy to squander money, which went double for upstarts. Alliance leader Luo and I have our differences, but I know to look past them. I give nothing but respect by offering this 12th grade spiritual weapon. Qin Hao knew those looks and grinned, gesturing to offer the scarlet weapon to Luo Yunhai with his eerie gaze. Luo Yunhai's eye twitched, hesitating as he watched that insufferable and gloating smirk. Taking it means losing this bout. Qin Hao was no guest here and barged in just to give him a gift. All signs told to refuse it, since accepting meant greed. The Luo Alliance yearns for Qin society's stuff, and this will strike at their reputation once word spreads to every corner. While refusing, let Qin Hao win. The guy had qualms about throwing such a beauty away with how rare they were. But since it was all an act and made the Luo Alliance look bad, the sword had lost its value with all his goals checked out. Accepting it meant a stain on the Luo Alliance's name. Not taking it was playing into his hand, having robbed the limelight while also keeping his precious. The Luo Alliance was going to lose some, without a doubt. Luo Yunhai's face twitched, sighing as he spoke. Society head, I appreciate your generosity, but it's too precious of a gift to accept. It is? Then I'll be sure to bring a cheaper one next time, haha. Qin Hao went for the kill, putting away the sword without a qualm while sending scornful looks at the people behind Luo Yunhai. Luo Yunhai glared at him hard. Qin Hao cupped his hands to the other guests and laughed. I have one more great news to bring on Alliance Leader's auspicious day. On the 10th of May next year I shall hold my 260th birthday. Everyone is invited. You'd give me much honor with your presence there. And Alliance Leader Luo, I know you did not give me an invite to yours, but I am most willing to give one to you. Please accept it once Qin Society presents it with utmost respect. I'm getting excited just thinking what your gift might be, especially how much bigger the Luo Alliance is compared to Qin Society, ha ha ha. Let's go. Qin Hao strutted out of the hall like a winner. He finally won up the Luo Alliance and crushed their name. Luo Yunhai's group had dark looks, fists clenched, jaws set. The guests blinked between the sides. No one likes being dissed by an underdog. Whoosh. 3 youths blocked Qin Hao, shouting, "Hold up, old man. Who dares to block the path of the Qin Society head?" The rugged man's first reaction was to shout and attack, but Qin Hao raised his hand to hold him back. He looked closer and sneered, "Look who it is, if it isn't the Luo Alliance's young miss and the 2 noble sons. What can I do for you?" Luo Sifan, Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang had been rushing for 3 months to make it to the Alliance leader's celebration on time. But seeing this old guy crashing the party, they were furious. Luo Sifan beamed, "Uncle Qin, did you come to congratulate father? Why are you leaving with your gift then? Is it normal to bring it then take it away?" "Ha, dear child, it's your dad who thought little of it, so I can only take it back. I wish not to darken the Luo Alliance leader's day, so I chose to leave sooner, ha." "Really, Dad didn't like it? Can I take a look?" "Go right ahead, child, but I'm sure it's nothing to fuss over. Since you're the Luo Alliance young miss, you must have seen many greater things than this. It won't look nice being so overwhelmed over something so little, ha." Qin Hao's eyes held nothing but contempt, then opened the box with utter glee once more, eager to see Luo Alliance young miss' dumb look of shock. Pyrocloud's glory was once more shed into the world, making everyone's heart race. The kid stared hard as well. Pah. The lid closed shut and the world dimmed just a little. Qin Hao snickered at Luo Sifan. "Young Miss Luo, have you seen something like this? You call that great? No wonder Dad rejected that junk. Luo Sifin slanted her head and smirked. Your poker is so, but it's natural for Dad to shun it. But looking at you and how you're really getting on in your years, but yet to be met with such cordiality at your thoughtful gift, I'll take it instead. Just leave it and go. Sifin. Luo Yunhai snapped at her. He could not take the gift no matter what, or the world would think the worst of them. Luo Yunchang and Yuer were giving her obvious looks to back off. The girl ignored him, staring into Qin Hao's eyes with a glimmer in hers. Qin Hao laughed and nodded. Oh my treasure is nothing to the Luo Alliance leader but quite important to the young Miss IC. I just can't tell who's the blind one here. Luo Alliance leader, do you really want the gift? Qin Hao turned to Luo Yunhai, taunting, but he got no response, only a dark look. Pa. Luo Sifin yanked the box and placed it on a table with glee. Enough yapping about and give it already. I told you I'll take your little bauble. Sifin, what do you think you're doing? Luo Yunhai roared, to which Qin Hao mocked. So Luo Alliance leader does care about little old me's gift. Then what was the point of that noble act just now? Ha ha ha. Luo Yunhai's mouth shook, about to spit blood. Qin Hao's laugh turned into a cackle. Old man, why would Dad care about some toothpick? I just can't bear to see you come all this way just to be shot down. That'll be so unfair to you. Luo Sifin snarked. We have more than enough junk like that around for the Luo Alliance to care. Even my gift ends up better than yours. Luo Sifin's hand shone and a blue sword dazzled the eyes with its azure aura. They all gasped, even the 9 sect leaders. To that sword. 12th grade top, Yenemo muttered. When Tao wiped his brow, his heart stirring, not just top but perfect. I've never seen a spiritual weapon having such an aura. Is one with the world. That's why the girl looked down on Pyrocloud. It's scrap by comparison. Everyone bobbed their heads. Qin Hao's winning look got crushed and his body shook all over in disbelief. It's how on earth? The Luo Alliance actually has a divine weapon like the unique ones of every land? Luo Sifin bowed, her turn to look smug, moving to present the sword to Luo Yunhai. This is Everblue 188 meters for 9 kilograms, symbolizing the auspicious number 9, the best of its kind. You represent benevolence, enact justice, steer the world and lead the people. My friends and I looked long and hard before choosing the most fitting sword for Father. May you live forever and ever, Father. Happy birthday. Having it pointed out, the people woke up and noticed the perfect 12th grade spiritual weapon was a best fit for Luo Yunhai's style, unlike the raw Pyrocloud of before. Now this is a thoughtful pick. Does that mean the Luo Alliance has so many of them that they could spare time on these details? Are they filthy rich? Is there no bottom to their wealth? All eyes widened in shock, even Qin Hao, looking agape with his heart in pieces. Curses, now the Luo Alliance is better than the Double Dragon Manor? Why the hell are we still messing with them? Chapter 1131, Clan Conduct. Chapter 1131, Clan Conduct. Proofreader, Papatonks. Everblue's glorious aura shone in the amazed eyes of all guests. Luo Yunhai reached for it and then pointed at the box to open and let Pyrocloud's red glow shine out. It soon found that the blue sword shone brighter, overwhelming it and stealing the red aura for itself. Pyrocloud then shook and darkened. The people cried out, how can this be? Pyrocloud degraded to the 11th grade? Qin Hao's face shook hard, a vein snapping on his forehead as his heart raced like a dying horse. What the hell? Why would a 12th grade spiritual sword up and get degraded? Is Everblue capable of taking the power of other spiritual swords? That's insane. Everyone lit up as they gazed upon Everblue. Qin Hao's heart was bleeding. His prize sword just got bumped down to 11th grade. That's too fast a devaluation. Damn Luo Alliance, where the hell did they find such a ridiculous sword? I've never heard of such things. This was the product of Zhuo Fan's insights into vaulting swords art mixed with the demon transformation art. It not only had a mild aura, but all spiritual swords around it would be worn out from having their spiritual energy sucked out. Zhuo Fan had many sovereign legacies, with swordsmanship being among his latest. His products were bound to be glorious as well. But all people could see was the perfect 12th grade spiritual sword, so strong and so baffling. Luo Yunhai felt familiarity with it in his grip, laughing, great sword. The kids perked up, excited as well that their efforts were all worth it. Pa. Qin Hao sighed, about to slip away. He came to make a scene and only made a fool of himself instead. His precious gift even got degraded on top, the knife that cut the deepest. He gambled and lost everything. Wait. Luo Yunhai called out, "Society head, since you offered me a gift, I shall accept it." Qin Hao sighed, shaking his head and showing maudlin self-pity. "Alliance leader Luo, there's no need for jokes. With your deep resources, I cannot compare my paltry trinket with your divine sword. Your daughter is most correct. My sword is nothing to Alliance leader, especially now, degraded as it is. I shall take my leave and disturb you no further." Qin Hao slumped as he slinked away. "Not so fast." Luo Yunhai smiled. "Society head is too kind, please stay. It's my fault for being so busy to forget about your invitation. With society head disregarding our differences and coming to offer me a gift, I was thoughtless in receiving you. Please forgive me." Luo Yunhai bowed in sincerity. Looking from him to the dazzling blue sword, Qin Hao's face twitched and sighed. "Alliance leader Luo is so compassionate, with such a sword the perfect fit of a true hero. I now know why the Luo Alliance earned the respect of everyone in Western lands. It is I who offended you first. Please forgive me." Qin Hao bowed, returning the gesture. Luo Sifan was stunned. "Auntie, aren't they here to make a scene? Why is Dad?" "Give respect and you shall receive our undying gratitude. Take a finger and we'll take a hand. The Luo clan faces trouble but is not cruel either. This is the righteous and benevolent conduct of the Luo clan." Luo Yunchang patted her head. Zhuge Changfeng approached. "Young miss, the best way to destroy an enemy is by making friends with him. Clan head is most suited for this, different from Steward Zhua's style. Though he used gains as lures to move others. We may have defeated Qin Hao after coming to crash the party, but we cannot kick someone when they're down and leave his dignity. Going out of line will turn him into our enemy. Clan head did so to bring him on our side, but that's his choice. Though he doesn't look the fool, and maybe clan head's intention would get to him. This will only work to further grow our Luo alliance." Luo Sifan nodded but then asked, "Who's Steward Zhua? Why haven't we heard about him?" "He is dearly missed and grieved." Luo Yunchang sighed, sorrow taking over her. "Maybe few are those that can still remember him, but some elders always hold him in respect, admiration, fear and a bit of pity when talking about him." "Pity? How can they not pity a glorious hero dying before his time?" Luo Yunchang wiped her tears, shaking her head. "I told you mentioning him will make us sad." Zhuge Changfeng nodded. "We don't mention Steward Zhua because it would bring the ladies sorrow, only discussing it privately. Young miss can't understand." "Making Auntie sad? Then is he Auntie's lover?" Luo Sifan asked. Luo Yunchang gave an ever-bitter smile. "I see him as such, but his heart might hold another. That devil, I don't even know where his body is, yet I've yet to find if he held me dear." Luo Yunchang was forlorn. Luo Sifan's eyes shone. She had no clue who this Steward Zhua was to make her aunt, a famous iron lady, so sad even after his passing. Just what was he? Was there such a man alive in this world? Luo Sifan turned to Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang, her gophers, and shook her head. "Nah, I sure haven't found any, haha." Luo Yunhai invited Qin Hao in for a drink. Qin Hao came to crash the party and Luo Yunhai didn't like it of course, but now that he had been pulled in, all the grudge faded into cordiality. The wine poured non-stop, the mood turning lively again. But eyes kept drifting on the blue blade. Qin Hao was no exception, cupping his hands. "Alliance leader Luo, where did you get such a divine sword?" Luo Yunhai was dubious as well. "Sifan, where did you find this precious spiritual sword?" All sounds ceased, with eyes peeling and ears focused on their location. "Father, we've gone through much to get this gift for you." The trio chuckled pridefully. "We have gone through so much toil to meet with a master swordsmith in Swordfall." "Swordfall?" Qin Hao cried. "You can't mean this sword came from the blind swordsmith, can you?" Luo Sifan lit up and nodded. "You know him?" "Yes, we've been looking to meet him for so long before he finally gave us a sword, even picked one best for father's gift. I was wondering how you chose something that matched my nature to perfection. So you had help, ha." Luo Yunhai nodded. "Society head Qin, is there something wrong about this swordsmith?" Qin Hao frowned hard. "Juniors, you must have had heaven's favor to get that eccentric to give you a spiritual sword. Word first reached me about this strange man 20 years ago. I've also sent people to get a sword, but none succeeded. In anger, I tried forcing him only to lose all that tried, Genesis stage experts no less. When the casualties reached 100, I realized this was hopeless. The blind swordsmith is not normal by any means. Later on, I heard someone even sent 400 Genesis stage experts for him, yet none returned. I'm just glad I didn't go myself into the devil's den. From then on, no one tried anything. Even if there were divine swords there, none would try ever again. One thing was certain though, that no sword ever left his hands. I just can't believe your daughter managed to pull it off. Heaven must have favored you greatly. The sword is just like the rumors say, exquisite. Everyone gasped in shock, even the kids. Talk about having the devil's luck. 3 brats did what hundreds of Genesis stage experts couldn't. The kids were just as clueless as before. Was it supposed to be that hard? The blind uncle was quite nice though. How can he be cruel when he bickered with juniors? But then recalling Chower scaring away bald demon with 2 words, the trio tensed. Did we just go to hell and back? Chapter 1132, Intercepted. Chapter 1132, Intercepted. Proofreader, Papatonks. Father, I would like to know if the Luo Alliance ever had a blind member. Alliance leader, we have a grave situation. Luo Yunhai thought of something and asked, but the sudden panicked shout drew everyone's attention to outside the hall. A scout in black rushed in and kneeled. We have news from the central area that Dragon Cleaving Sword King is on his way to kill Alliance leader. You must get to safety and survive. What? Everyone at the celebration panicked, the hall drowned in frantic voices. Dragon Cleaving Sword King, the once best in Western lands, was coming after Luo Yunhai's head. This is a disaster. There's nothing in Western lands that can stop him. The Luo Alliance was in huge trouble. Many guests had dark looks, waiting for their response. Zhuge Changfeng rushed to the scout, snapping at him, how solid is the info? He is a sword king, not someone to stoop down to dirty assassinations. Did the Empire send him? Are they only after the Luo Alliance? Steward Zhuge, the report says the central area has no hand in it, that Dan Qingxin is doing it on his own. What did we ever do to him? Clan head, stewards, not to him but someone else. For he brought lads of our nation to him and asked for clan head's death. It has spread everywhere by now. Everyone calls it hate begets hate, a part of the cultivation world. Now they're waiting for the drama to unfold between the Luo Alliance and Dan Qingxin. Zhuge Changfeng's face shook hard at the impossible problem. This is grave. Since this was treated as a cultivator's grudge and only after one person, no expert of the 4 lands will lend a hand, especially since the central area isn't marching on us. Luo Yunhai's death would mean nothing to the 4 lands, the impact limited to the Luo Alliance, not a loss of strength, but a restructuring of power. While the 4 states keep their strength, the Luo alliances will crumble under the redistribution of power. Double Dragon Manor's dear wish, no doubt. Asking them to help now. Zhuge Changfeng shook his head and sighed. Lung Wuchang knew the situation was dire, his mind working hard for a solution. He found none. Brother Yunhai, we 9 sect leaders will plead your case before Double Dragon Manor. Only the exalted can stop their former disciple now. When Tao spoke, the others weren't against it, but Qin Hao had little hope this would work. As an old adversary of the Luo Alliance for years and years, he knew best of Double Dragon Manor's stance. In this trying time where a supreme expert was joining in, they all supported Luo Alliance in getting Double Dragon Manor to help, but whether the help would come remained to be seen. The exalted can at best match Dan Qingxin even if they do agree. This is an assassination. Dan Qingxin can sidestep them with ease. Qin Hao, having Luo Yunhai nursing his ego all this time, decided to give subtle advice. Don't go, as they won't help since they're too eager to see you die. The others fell silent, with Wu Qingqiu making another proposal. I was once somewhat close to the Shangguan clan. Maybe I could send them a request to help. Somewhat. Brother Wu, you've been making constant trips to eastern lands even now. Wen Tao snickered at his expense. Wu Qingqiu smiled as he looked at Luo Yunhai. Well? Thank you, sect leader Wu, but going to Double Dragon Manor is still better since this involves western lands. It would be best not to go over them. Zhuge Changfeng nodded, looking grave. Clan head, sect leader's request will also take days, and that means delaying the old man is a must. I propose we double the guard and raise the alert of the border patrols while also sending people to intercept in between to buy enough time. A tall man popped before them, his sideburns swaying in the breeze. He cupped his hands. Clan head, I volunteer to go and meet Dragon Cleaving Sword King. Elderly. Clan head, we also volunteer. Qiu Yunhai Shui Qingjian, along with Earth and Heaven elders, cupped their hands as well. Luo Yunhai hesitated. You are Luo clan's guardian venerables, without equal in the Luo alliance. But Dragon Cleaving Sword King is just as monstrous. Going means? As fellow Peak Genesis experts, we would like to see what sets a Sword King apart from us, haha. Li Jingtian made a fierce salute, his eyes eager for battle. Clan head, allow us to go against true experts. Death matters little to us. Please allow us, clan head. The other Fao bowed. Luo Yunhai sighed and nodded. Everyone else watched the five with respect. The loyalty and courage Luo clan's venerables have is awe-inspiring, rushing by their own initiative against such an enemy. Before you go, take Everblue with you to help. And Pyrocloud. While not up to Alliance leaders Everblue, it will help. Luo Yunhai offered his new spiritual sword and Qin Hao presented the degraded Pyrocloud. This was respect among heroes. There was a stifling mode prevalent in the hall. The five took them and cupped their hands before leaving. All felt this might be the last time they would see them. As the wind howls and rain batters, our brave depart never to return. Qin Hao cupped his hand in complete respect. Alliance leader Luo, you have nothing but admiration at the strength your alliance garnered, having such loyal warriors as well. Luo Yunhai shook his head with sorrow. It was Steward Zhuo who brought them. Watching them go to their doom makes me a failure as a clan head, disgracing his spirit. Steward Zhuo again. Luo Sifan was getting more and more curious. Who on earth is he? Why is he mentioned with nothing but reverence like a saint? Her feelings were ignored in this dire time when survival was doubtful. People rushed about, laying defenses, forming patrols, anything to stop Dan Qingxin. The celebration came to a halt as the guest knew this was the last drink. Long Jianshan, Xian Yinyang, we never did see the five elders fight as one. Must be amazing. Let's go watch. While all were busy, she sneaked to her gophers to get them on board. Long Jianshan hesitated. The strongest venerables have never moved before. The enemy must be dangerous. Won't we get hurt by going? Scared? I'm not scared. How are we going to catch up anyway? Simple, with Grandpa Li's dotting so much, I slipped 1,000 leagues sent on him in case the old man would try to avoid playing with me. We'll find them for sure with the lovesick larva. Sifan, you trickster. Long Jinshan's face twitched and sighed. I got nothing left to argue. Stop with the prattle. You're in or out? In. The brat sneaked out. Where did those kids go this time? Yue looked around and frowned. A month later, at the Western Lands border, a thin old man stood in the desert, facing 5 men. Dan Qingxin was out on a stroll, living a little while also taking Luo Yunhai in passing. I haven't been home in years, yet I just passed the border and you're here to meet me. How may I help you? Are you Dragon Cleaving Sword King Dan Qingxin? Precisely. We're the Luo clan's 5 venerables. That explains it. Dan Qingxin nodded, smiling. You came to die for your lord. I do appreciate your devotion. Ding. Li Jingtian held out an azure sword while Qiu Yinhai wielded Pyrocloud, pointing it at him. We came on behalf of the clan head, but also to see the legend of the best in Western Lands for ourselves. As Peak Genesis experts, why are you so much stronger? I see martial fanatics just like me, haha. Dan Qingxin chuckled freely. Then he stiffened, setting his piercing gaze upon the azure sword. Where did you get that? Chapter 1133, Toward the Sword Shack. Chapter 1133, Toward the Sword Shack. Proofreader, Papatonks. Pick up the pace, you two. I don't want to get there when the fighting is over. A girl ran ahead of 2 guys, dashing through the woods and holding a wiggling worm, adjusting course based on its direction. Long Jianshan and Xian Yinyang shared a worried look for the willful and obstinate young miss. Sister Sifan, let's just stop. We'll only burden the venerables in a Genesis stage expert showdown. Say if you don't want to go, don't make excuses, you chicken. Luo Sifan huffed, speeding up. I'll just go by myself then. I've yet to see a Sword King fight. Are they as amazing as they say that not even the 5 of them together can handle? The gophers hung their heads in defeat at their headstrong boss lady. We're here. Luo Sifan glanced at the worm raising its head and lit up. She crossed a bush and a sea of yellow entered her view, with the sun's dazzling rays shining on her delicate features, her enchanting eyes. She froze on the spot. Her excitement for the fight had now drained from her face, her blood running cold. Whoosh! The gophers arrived as well. Sister Siffin, wait for us, we. The duo stiffened at the shocking scene. How is this possible? As the sand blew, they witnessed blood soaking everywhere. 5 familiar figures were laying in it, unmoving. Before them was an old man in blue, holding an azure sword and tracing its blade with a frown. Strange, how can there be the vaulting sword art? Why does this sword contain vaulting swords mysteries? The exalted aren't good at refining either, while their swordsmanship isn't impressive either. Does this mean that the Western Lands has another vaulting sword inheritor? But why the Luo clan? I've never heard of anyone from Luo clan getting into Double Dragon Manor. Grandpa Li. Luo Siffin cried out in tears, rushing to him before the other two could stop her. Siffin? The old man paused and observed the distressed girl looking after Li Jingtian. You're from Luo clan? Why your dragon-cleaving sword king Dan Qingshin? Luo Siffin's eyes quivered, but steeled herself to meet his gaze. Dan Qingshin nodded, I am. The kids shivered, their hearts tensing. Did you do this to them? Luo Siffin was most definitely scared but fought through it to ask. Dan Qingshin offered a snicker. Yes, this is my handiwork. Missy, you're quite brave knowing I hurt them yet rushing over still. Aren't you scared I'll take your lives? The trio flinched and shook like leaves. Luo Siffin tightened her fists. My clan has no cowards. Grandpa Li and the others are our venerables. I am not about to turn a blind eye to them. My, what spunk. Dan Qingshin nodded. I can see the valor in Luo clan like they say. Even the kids are steadfast. I'd hate to go against you just on this alone, but I made a vow. Girl, you recognize this sword? Luo Siffin glanced at Everblue and nodded. Great, let's talk. I've come to Western Lands for only one man and I'll kill any that stand in my way. But seeing your venerables so steadfast and righteous garnered my sympathy and I left them breathing. Now tell me where you got this sword and I'll leave you be as well. Luo Siffin was silent. Why is he so interested in it? Are sword kings after 12th grade spiritual weapons as well? Or is it maybe the blind uncle? I can't tell on him or he'll get hurt. Dan Qingshin snickered. Don't feel like talking? Then none of you are leaving here alive, including your elders. Dan Qingshin flexed his aura to mount the pressure. The kids were rooted on the spot, their breaths stolen and their faces red. Luo Siffin gnashed her teeth. Haha, just like Luo clan tight-lipped? Dan Qingshin's eyes shone, ramping up the pressure. I asked the old guys as well, but they just attacked and look how they end up. But why are you kids doing the same? They could at least fight while you are all powerless before me. Do you really want to die like this? Luo clan never turns its back on anyone. Luo Siffin squeezed through the pain and discomfort. Dan Qingshin was touched. He was about to go easy on them when a shout came. It's the blind swordsmith. He gave it to us. Whoosh. Dan Qingshin snapped his eyes on Long Jianshan. Who is that? He lives 3 miles out of Swordfall. The villagers know about him. Long Jianshan recoiled under the piercing stare. Dan Qingshin nodded and chuckled. Girl, you're not bad, while he ha. Dan Qingshin vanished. Luo Siffin glared at him. Long Jianshan, how can you sell out the blind uncle? What if he wanted to harm uncle? But we were about to get killed. What was I supposed to do? Long Jianshan looked crushed, muttering, I was doing it for us. It's he who will die instead of us 5, 6, 7, 8. All the more reason we can't betray his goodwill after giving the sword. Are we that ungrateful that we sent trouble his way? Haven't you ever heard of death before dishonor? Luo Siffin glared as she lashed at him. Who is to say 8 lives outweigh 1 life? Rumble. A loud rumble approached as a 3rd-level spiritual beast-drawn carriage arrived, carrying a languid voice. Are you from the Luo clan? Get in. I want to save the blind swordsmith. Why I've met your alliance leader once and told me who deserves to die and who doesn't. Regardless of what Dan Qingshin has against the Luo clan, the blind swordsmith is innocent. I will try to mediate. The soft voice spoke again. Have the wounded placed in a safe spot. I'll save them. Luo Siffin nodded in joy and signaled Xian Yinyang for help with the elders. Long Jianshan hesitated, shaken up hard from the encounter with the dragon-cleaving sword king. But scarier by far was Luo Siffin's fury, and so Long Jianshan lent a hand as well. After taking care of them, the 3 got in and were shocked to witness such beauty. Rumble. The carriage rushed through and arrived before the cabin with the sign Sword Shack written on it. Its door was blown out and Dan Qingxin sat before it. His eyes shone at the dangling spiritual swords. Hearing the carriage stop, he looked behind to see a fair lady cupping her hands. Dragon-cleaving Sword King greeting. Murong clan's young miss? Dan Qingxin chuckled. I don't recall having met with Brother Murong. It ought to be Wine Sword Immortal the closest with you. Miss Murong, why would you look for me? The kids got out as well and shrank in fear while also amazed at Murong Shui. The lady must be important for even Dan Qingxin to show respect. They had yet to grasp how vast the world was, that their Luo alliance had only been around for just shy over a century. As for the Murong clan, it held power in the 5 lands for millennia, making even the central area think twice. This was the deterrence a Sword King level expert brought, unlike all those countless factions. Chapter 1134, The First Steward. Chapter 1134, The First Steward. Proofreader, Papatonks. Taking in the Sword Shack's condition and the lack of battle signs, Murong Shui relaxed and asked, what of the blind swordsmith? Sword King couldn't have erased him already, right? I was met with a 9th grade array just as I arrived and only broke it. Dan Qingxin smiled. Inside there are only swords. But every last one of them contains deep insights in the sword path. I didn't know such a person lived. He may very well be the best refiner, haha. Luo Sifan eased a breath. Thank heavens blind uncle isn't here. Murong Shui wasn't one to be settled with just that. Dragon-cleaving Sword King, why might you be looking for the blind swordsmith? What are your intentions? To ask some questions. That's it. Though if the answers are to disappoint, I'll be taking his life instead. Dan Qingxin squinted, his face cold. Murong Shui's heart sank. She let out a breath, knowing she could not stop a Sword King, despite being a peak Genesis expert herself. Luo Sifan was startled as well, praying. Don't come, blind uncle, someone wants to kill you, a top expert in the world. You have to stay away. I couldn't forgive myself if you died. Which obviously went unanswered. My, what a crowd we have today. It's been ages since I got so many guests at my shack. Flinching, all snapped in the voice's direction and saw a youth in white and covered eyes, his smile sinister, and a few old signatures among you as well. Welcome, old friends, ha. Luo Sifan gasped, run, uncle, he wants to kill you. Kill me who? Aren't we all old pals? I never irked anyone here. Zhuofan had no qualms at all. Old pals? Luo Sifan looked at Dan Qingxin and Murong Shui, their faces so shocked they'd seen a ghost. Dan Qingxin pointed at Zhuofan, stammering, why you're not dead? Of course not, or were you expecting a ghost in broad daylight? It never crossed my mind that you're the blind swordsmith. Murong Shui's eyes shook, taking a deep breath and turning to Luo Sifan. Don't worry, this blind uncle is none other than the greatest devil that has walked the earth. Him getting hurt? It'll be a miracle if he doesn't cause genocide instead. Yeah, who could ever kill me? Aha, girl, know how to make tea? Put a kettle on. Me and my old friends are having a chat. Zhuofan waved without a care. An hour later, Murong Shui gave the 5 wounded pills before laying them in the shack. Zhuofan entertained the guests in a small gazebo outside. The hostility was now gone, replaced with utter calm. The kids were staring oblivious to the inner workings, slowly making their way inside the shack. Long Jianshan pulled her to the side and looked outside. Sister Sifan, who is that blind guy? Why is Dragon-cleaving Sword King suddenly listening to his words and sitting down to enjoy old times? Who the hell is he to stand equal to a Sword King? How should I know? Luo Sifan was equally baffled by what was happening. In any case, the blind uncle must be something else. How else can you explain these big names acting all friendly around him? Zhuofan felt 3 pairs of intrigued eyes on his back and smiled. After a century I still get to see some old friends. Miss Murong still a busybody like usual? I'm working for the greater good and helping the needy. Not like you know anything about that now, would you? Murong Shui rolled her eyes and huffed. Yet all these years that went by still can't make me forget the war, your actions, whether good or bad, whether right or wrong. That's why I have been traveling to see the world and find a definite answer. It has eluded me even now. Zhuofan smirked. I've experienced life's trials as well, with something to show for, unlike you. If willing, come with me to see the culmination of evil and righteous in humanity. Maybe it will bring you peace. Murong Shui nodded in the end, no longer as antagonistic. Zhuofan, did you make this? Dan Qingxin placed Everblue on the table, staring hard at his face. Zhuofan nodded. How? Why can I feel the vaulting sword art from it? When did you learn it? Over the last century. Zhuofan eased a breath. Old Dan, I've been keeping something from you for a long time. That fight in Double Dragon Manor. Zhuofan revealed vaulting sword situation in detail. Sorry for fooling all of you. Vaulting sword was with me while the exalted and you thought it was with the other. This burden had been held for 100 years. What? Dan Qingxin shook, unable to comprehend how a brat pulled the wool over him, the best in Western lands, and yet he was still the fall guy. Outrageous. Murong Shui gave him a long look and smiled. You're really something, toying with Western lands best when you were nothing. I don't think there was anyone in the world would be more insane as you. True, that was one huge gamble that had me nervous to the core. Nervous? Yet you still took it? Where is it now? I won't return it. Dan Qingxin held out his hand, but Zhuofan shook his head. It's been with me for so many years, I see no reason to give it away. I'm only explaining to you and giving you understanding while giving me peace. I mean, you did save me once and it wouldn't do to keep this from you. I've saved you years ago and you're only telling me now? I was scared you'd kill me. What about now? No. Zhuofan was frank like never before in his life. Dan Qingxin's beard shook wildly in anger. Curses, he grew up and now I can't do anything. The instant Dan Qingxin sensed the vaulting sword in Everblue, he knew. The swordsmith had the same understanding as him, and after seeing it to be Zhuofan, all became clear. Zhuofan was a freak of nature to begin with. Taking a century had to have made him an abomination. He believed he'd suffer for fighting if it came to that. After grumbling for a while, Dan Qingxin hit the table and rose to leave. Zhuofan stopped him. Wait, old Dan, we haven't finished talking about old times after so many years. Where are you going? Screw your reminiscing. I have nothing to say to you. I need to kill someone, a bloodlust like no other has taken over me. You had me fuming mad. Zhuofan didn't let him go still. Old Dan, you can kill anyone but Alliance leader Luo. Do a favor for the little old me and let him go, alright? Favor? My word is my bond. Someone brought me the painting and asked for his head. How can I refuse? Old Dan, don't you find it the least bit strange? The whole world knows about it. You're being played. So what? I don't care. Dan Qingxin snapped, I have my principles. Even if we haven't fallen out, we're men of our word. You have your values and I have mine. My oath has to be fulfilled to the best of my ability. Zhuofan nodded in understanding, your best. Then if it exceeds it. What are you on about? Getting killed on your way to Luo Yunhai should be called excessive, right? Dan Qingxin's face twitched, and who would? Mean. Zhuofan spoke. Dan Qingxin clenched his fists, squinting, why would you? Because I am the first steward of the Luo clan, Zhuofan. Boom. A flood of bloodthirst rushed out of Zhuofan, filling the earth and the heavens with a crippling coldness. Chapter 1135, Still Have the Skills. Chapter 1135, Still Have the Skill. Proofreader, Papatonks. Boom. An eerie wind blew through the world, sending fear into the hearts of every living being. Murong Shui even flinched back at her level. As for the kids, they paled instantly, shaking all over from terror. The blind uncle who looked to be in the profound heaven stage was actually on Dan Qingxin's level. Is he another Sword King level expert? But no matter how hard they racked their brains about it, no such blind expert came to mind. The newest addition was that lone arm Sword King. Luo Sifan gasped at Zhuofan's cruel figure. Blind uncle is full of surprises. Dan Qingxin knew Zhuofan was at his level and couldn't be pushed around. He felt tense against such equal opponent. Though it was far from making him fear it. You did in just 100 years what it took me 1,000. Zhuofan, you're one of a kind genius. You may be at my level, but we'll only end our fight in a draw. I know that most of your power is within those eyes. I may not understand why, but it's obvious you can't use them now. You have no chance of stopping me as you are. Dan Qingxin jumped and pointed 2 fingers at the sky. Following a deep rumble, the heavens caved and roars echoed out, with dragons converging on his fingertips. A power like no other fell from the sky, the destructive force covering the entire area. Murong Shui was sweating. The kids were panicking. Is this a Sword King? We've never felt this before, not even from tens of Genesis experts joining hands. All Sword Kings are out of this world. But can blind uncle stop it? The trio turned to Zhuofan with hope, only to see him calm as always. They thought the worst. Even he is scared stiff in front of Dan Qingshen's power? Whoosh. Zhuofan was gone the next moment, popping just a meter from Dan Qingshen. Why is he so fast? The calm Dan Qingshen turned frantic. His attack gathering in his fingers was sent slashing at Zhuofan with a flick of his wrist. Zhuofan couldn't dodge at this distance, taking the brunt of the attack. Any other Sword King would never take something like this head-on, since it would cripple them. And yet, whoosh, Zhuofan's right hand shone scarlet and grabbed. Bam. With the roars of thousands of dragons, the attack carried the might of heavens and dragons as they went for Zhuofan. But Zhuofan merely caught it with his Qilin arm. The rumbling grew in intensity, the clash sending blinding lights everywhere, along with violent shockwaves. They crumbled the earth, shook the skies and crushed mountains. The onlookers were overwhelmed. Is this a clash between Sword Kings? This is insane. What's with all this shaking? Is the world coming to an end? Dan Qingshen was just as incredulous. How can you take on my sword with one arm? A golden fire exploded from the arm, cutting off his words. The flames covered the sword wave, eliciting wails of dragons while the Qilin arm squeezed. The powerful sword wave was devoured with a boom by the golden flames, while the mass of dragon power in the world around them faded out. The decimating sword art? Dan Qingshen cried out. Then a scarlet glow flicked across the air and a heavy power hacked at him. Zhuofan merely chopped, yet the scarlet wave felt like death to Dan Qingshen. Boom. The attack shot into the sky, erasing everything for 1,000 miles in its path. The mountain scenery surrounding Swordfall turned into a desert in an instant. The kids watched agape as the dust roiled in the sky. The landscape changed all around them, the shock almost stopping their hearts. Murong Shui was unable to believe such power existed and gulped. The cunning devil from 100 years ago became a demon archon. Who could stand up to him? Dan Qingshen's white hair fluttered in the winds. Zhuofan took back his hand from the side of his face and said, Old Dan, I may not have my eyes, but my skill remains. Now can you turn back? Soaring sword art. Dan Qingshen stared back with empty eyes. His smile turning bitter, yes I can. I have no way of killing Luo Yunhai. There's no chance for me when I'm stopped by someone who learned 3 divine sword arts to perfection. None, whatsoever. Dan Qingshen looked devastated and forlorn, leaving with hunched shoulders. Zhuofan, you deserve to have vaulting sword. And he left, back to central area. Zhuofan was just too strong for him to defeat. The first strike stopped him, but the next would end him. The brat became the second invincible sword, ha. Zhuofan landed as he watched Dan Qingshen go. Murong Shui no longer looked calm, shaking like a leaf. The 4 missing divine swords ended up with you 100 years ago. Yes and no. You'll know in time. Zhuofan walked back to the shack. The kids were silent from fear, even shivering. Zhuofan patted the girl's head. It's fine now. Go back to your dad. Dan Qingshen was beaten back, so tell him to relax. Right, Luo Sifan nodded. Zhuofan smiled and patted her some more before going to Li Jingtian's side. He inspected their wounds and nodded. Miss Murong isn't stingy with her medicine, using 10th grade pills. In a week they should wake up and recover in a month. I'm never stingy with my patients. But it's also because Dan Qingshen didn't go hard on them and crush their spirit, or it wouldn't be as easy. Old Dan is an upright man, but in our world, sometimes you're forced to do things against your principles, haha. Zhuofan laughed. Maybe he'd wanted this defeat. Really? I didn't notice him throwing the fight. You can't keep yourself from following your heart's desire. This is old Dan's way. Zhuofan smiled. Murong Shui mulled it over. Luo Sifan plucked up her courage to say, Blind uncle, do you and the Luo alliance have history? Haha, there may be some there. Zhuofan smirked, then a jade slip shot into his hand. After a careful read, his face was hard. Girl, speak to no one about today. Act like you never saw me. When the geezers wake up, take them and leave, understand? Everyone flinched. What's going on? Why the sudden change? He's been growing over these years so much that it's clear he aims for the top, going against us. His people's skills are truly formidable. All these people just now were once our disciples, yet they've taken the Luo clan's side. He must have learned Zhuofan's core values. Even when Zhuofan faked death, they still recommended the Luo clan. Exalted He Ran nodded, I know. I just got word the Qin society that's been at odds with the Luo alliance all this time got pulled into the birthday celebration. Luo Yunhai's compassion has no limit. With such a high achiever in Western lands, it brings unrest. A vicarious settlement is best. Exalted by Mei left while Exalted He Ran sighed behind him. At the entrance to the Shangguan clan in eastern lands, Shangguan Qingyan walked Wu Qingqiu out. I'm sorry, senior brother Wu, our venerables are set on this. It's fine. The seniors must have their own thoughts about it. Goodbye. Wu Qingqiu bowed. Shangguan Qingyan returned the gesture, feeling helpless. Shangguan Qingyan went back in and bowed before the elders. Venerables, senior brother Wu was here and I couldn't be blunt, but now I have to know. The Luo clan is a benevolent group in Western lands, working well with ours. Why wouldn't we help them in this time of need and bring us closer together? Yenner, all these years you've handled the clan, you've never done anything of import, only trivialities and don't have perspective. Why do you think Double Dragon Manor doesn't interfere despite Dan Qingxin coming to Western lands to cause trouble? Why was it Wu Qingqiu who came asking for our help? Maybe Double Dragon Manor was in difficulty? What difficulty when it's just Dan Qingxin and not against the central area? Even if something grave was happening, it should be Double Dragon Manor who would ask of our help and not Ultimate Clarity Sect. That's, Shangguan Qingyan hesitated. The Venerable sighed, his voice resolute, Yenner, humanity is twisted at heart. We're not suspicious of other but should at least be cautious. Double Dragon Manor is the head of Western lands. By going over their heads and interfering, we're undermining their authority, damaging the relation between the lands. And when Wu Qingqiu arrived, signs have already shown this might be the case. The Western lands' waters run deep and it's best we don't get involved. Venerable Double Dragon Manor wants, Shangguan Qingyan's face fell. A month later the envoys gone to plead assistance had returned, looking bitter and disappointed. Yan Mo cupped his hand in apology, Brother Luo the Exalted are away. Their minds maybe. They were clearly avoiding us. When Tao sighed, I'd never have known people could be like this if it weren't for this incident. For even the Exalted to do this. Luo Yunhai and Zhuge Changfeng foresaw this and nodded. Shangguan clan's 3 venerables declined on grounds of stumbling in their cultivation. Wu Qingqiu reported. This reason was so casual it left others speechless. Stumble? They've been around millennia and 1,000 years at peak Genesis stage with no sign of advancing. What stumbling? Neither side was willing to help. Who then in the Luo alliance could put a stop to Dan Qingxin's power? All had deep frowns at such a serious problem. But this trouble ended up repelled without their knowledge. The man who did it was now watching them from the shadows with a warm smile. Chapter 1137, Central Area Ambassador. Chapter 1137, Central Area Ambassador. Proofreader, Papatonks. Dad. In a moment of great turmoil, Luo Sifan's group came in with the wounded elders. Luo Yunhai gasped, Sifan? Where have you brats run off to the last few days? Your mother has been searching for you everywhere. Dad, we're not children. We've gone to do important stuff. Important. Luo Yunhai glanced behind them at Li Jingtian and others. He only got utter confusion from the elders and a shrug. Luo Yunhai turned to the kids with Luo Sifan looking prideful. Dad, you don't have to worry about that Dan Qingxin guy anymore. We scared him off. He must be back in the central area by now. What? Everyone gasped, looking at the kids in disbelief. These wee kids made Dragon Cleaving Sword King leave? As if. Luo Yunhai asked, still out of it, Elderly, you went to stop Dan Qingxin. What on earth happened? Are you alright? Thank you, clan head, for your concern. Actually. Li Jingtian bowed, then their faces twitched. We're not sure. Not even you? What? Clan head, we've been unconscious from our heavy wounds. And when we woke up, we saw the kids had taken us to a bamboo shack. They say they've made Dan Qingxin fall back and the only thing we could do was come back since there was no sign of him around. No checkpoint we passed had seen him either. Li Jingtian's story began shaky and ended in confusion. Did he leave or not? Luo Yunhai looked hard at Luo Sifan. How did you get him to leave? We. Luo Sifan giggled, putting on Zhuofan's style as she wove a touching tall tale. Long Jinshan and Xian Yinyang joined in as well, ramping up the danger, the tragedy and, inadvertently, the comedy. They were sure to include any trial imaginable to any human being, no short of going to hell and back. And that's how Dragon-Cleaving Sword King felt sorry for us pathetic three and left. Long Jinshan ended with a few sniffs, though the pride obvious in his eyes. Alliance leader, you can't imagine the danger Sister Siphon was in, but I stepped in. As if I stepped in. Shut it. It was me. No, me. Long Jinshan wanted to paint himself as saving the damsel, but Xian Yinyang wouldn't have it. The next thing you knew, Alliance leader Luo would think of him when giving his daughter's hand. The two agreed that anything else was fine except this. The innocent Luo Siphon looked dumbstruck. Why fight over who lied? They weren't fighting for just some breadcrumbs, but for their future father-in-law's favor. Luo Yunhai was clearly not buying it, snapping at them. All right already? Who told you brats that you can go into such danger? Guard, cane them 50 times without yuan qi protection, and then ground them in their room for a month. Ah. Don't give me that. I'll make sure you won't soon forget this. Luo Yunhai had the guard take them away at the dismay of the heroes. Didn't we do good? Why are we punished? Zhuofan laughed at their expense, patted Murong Shue's shoulder and left. Wu Qingqiu and Luo Yunhai were in the dark as to what actually happened, but their nerves relaxed with Dan Qingxin giving up. Whoosh. Zhuofan took Murong Shue through the forest outside the Luo alliance, laughing. The brats did it this time. They thought they could take credit? I'd have slapped them in Yunhai's stead. How could they go through such dangers when their parents are worried sick? Ha ha ha. You sure know your way around, having been the first steward of the Luo alliance. No one picked up on anything. Murong Shue looked behind the barrier. Please, I set these up before leaving. Even if it is improved, it is done with my own work as the base. I don't need to know much about this place, ha ha. The good and evil you speak of. This? Zhuofan shrugged. Double Dragon Manor represents what's good and fair in Western lands, earning people's trust. Shangguan clan also preaches righteousness. Miss Murong must think that with the Luo clan holding the same values and asking them for help, they ought to jump at the occasion to do good. Why then the cold shoulder? Murong Shue sank in thought. Zhuofan smirked. It didn't get them anything by helping. The Luo clan is large and Double Dragon Manor began to have different opinions about it. Since such a prime chance came to cull it, why waste it? Shangguan clan is an upright clan, but having not gotten Western Land's boss green light, what would be the point of saving the Luo clan? It was ill-advised getting on Double Dragon Manor's bad side as a result. So I ask you, Miss Murong, is this good or evil? Behind a greedy heart, demons lurk. Murong Shue sighed. Zhuofan shook his head. Hardly. Double Dragon Manor has its own issues. It has deep roots into Western lands tied to it. Once that changed, Western lands changed. Moreover, one's nature is forever unknown. What kind of boss out there would allow an underdog to rise above it? Even beasts would do everything to drive out intruders, most of all humans. What? Fear. Double Dragon Manor wants to do things for itself. Failing sometimes means losing one's life. Shangguan clan looked after itself just as well. By offending Double Dragon Manor they lose a strong ally. What's so bad about getting your family strong before doing good? What point is good if it can't keep you in power? So are they good or evil? Murong Shue was mystified. Zhuofan laughed. Keep watching. The 5 lands are going to clash again. I'll then show you what a real disaster and calamity is all about. Murong Shue followed him still. In a gloomy hall, Yuan Yong hastily came forward to bow. Prime Minister, Dragon-Cleaving Sword King was thwarted. Someone stopped him, holding strength beyond his, from taking down Luo Yunhai. Oh, did those 2 geezers intervene? Bailey Jingwei smiled. Yuan Yong was grave. No. Who then? I don't know. The Sword King didn't say, only that he was powerless. I see. Dragon-Cleaving Sword King's word is his body. For him to say that, then it exceeded his ability. Bailey Jingwei nodded. No matter what about the other land's reactions. Ignored. Yuan Yong replied, they all say they reap what they sow and none stepped in, not even Double Dragon Manor. Ultimate Clarity Sex Wu Qingqiu even asked Shangguan clan's help for the Luo clan, only to be refused. Bailey Jingwei's smile grew. Good, there's at least some result. Sir Yuan, ever thought of returning to Tianyu? What? Pass my order. Prince of Harvest, Bailey Yunming in his position as Central Area Ambassador, along with Deputy Minister of War Yuan Yong are to go to Western lands and discuss the removal of Devil Palace with every land. The other 3 lands will have a renowned member from the Ministry of Rights, Ministry of Revenue and Ministry of Works as ambassadors informing the leaders of the lands of this action. Prime Minister Yuan Yong was stunned. Bailey Jingwei waved him off, snickering, "Sir Yuan, you have one other mission. Listen." Bailey Jingwei explained in the dark Yuan Yong's true purpose. Bailey Jingwei dismissed him and said coldly, "Understand? I'm letting you do this not to get Tianyu back, but to become lord over Western lands under the Sword Star Empire." "Thank you so much, Prime Minister. I won't let you down." Yuan Yong cupped his hands and went away with glee. Chapter 1138, Glorious Return. Chapter 1138, Glorious Return. Proofreader, Papatonks. By Bailey Jingwei's decree, the officials drafted the documents quickly, sending them to the 4 lands' leaders through ambassadors. As the Sword Star Empire was focused on recovery the past century, it maintained stable relations with the other lands. The lands were very much wary of this large enemy, but the appearances were kept, with some seldom cooperation taking place. Bailey Jingwei sent the ambassadors as goodwill. The 4 lands were welcome to refuse, but that would raise tension with the empire and lead to further problems that they would rather do without. What was the harm of one small errand boy paying a visit anyway? As for Devil Palace, they were at peace with them now, but who knew what the future held? The day might come when all the lands had to unite and remove this organization. Taking precautions for that was only natural. After careful consideration, the 4 lands agreed to the empire's ambassador. Yuan Yong and Prince of Harvest, Bailey Yunming, took their flashy honor guard to Western lands. Unlike the other lands' envoys, they had to make a stop by the Tianyu Empire before going to Double Dragon Manor. "The Empire's ambassador is passing by and wants us to receive him." 3 months later, in the Imperial Palace's study, the middle-aged Emperor Yuan Tsong lost his youthful chubbiness, thinning somewhat. He even had a mustache. He gasped as he stared at Luo Yunhai sitting across from him. "Alliance leader Luo, are you sure? Tianyu isn't in the direct path between Western Land's border and Double Dragon Manor. Are you sure that's right?" Luo Yunhai sighed, "Of course I am, since it came directly from Double Dragon Manor." Saying there's someone from Tianyu among the delegation making a glorious return and asking explicitly for the Luo Alliance to receive them. "From Tianyu? Oh." Yuan Tsong paced about in thought, some glory when it's just some guy's detour. I am the Emperor of Tianyu. Any that have been from Tianyu are my people. But to come back as Sword Star Empire's delegate, he's demanding my respect? That's humiliating." Luo Yunhai chuckled, "Your Majesty, what humiliation? This is in constant flux. Weren't you respectful when meeting me before you even became Emperor?" "Oh, I see." Yuan Tsong chuckled, "Speaking of Alliance leader Luo, you were very kind back then. When Zhuofan seized everything, I thought I'd be reduced to a puppet my entire life. But after the Luo Alliance expanded, you returned ruling back to me. I'll always be grateful for that." Luo Yunhai said, "Your Majesty, the Luo clan is also thankful for all your care back then. We both know it was an investment. Like Zhuofan said, having motives. But you lacked any with me, offering back the power to rule in sincerity. They just don't compare. Regardless, the kindness still remains. The Luo clan will never lord over their supporters." Yuan Tsong chuckled, "Alliance leader Luo, no brother Yunhai, I shall return your respect manifold. Whoever comes back to strut, I'll be sure to shower him in glory so as not to nitpick with you." "Nitpick? Brother Luo, I may be the ruler of some small kingdom, but things happening in Western lands do reach my ear. I know Double Dragon Manor is watching you like a hawk, ready to use anything as an excuse, right? I have vied for the throne and know how to handle problems." Luo Yunhai's face twitched, then beamed. After 3 more days, the imperial capital was adorned with colorful decorations. Emperor Yuan Tsong and Empress Long Kuei stood at the entrance. It was the highest honor given by the Tianyu Empire to any guest, that of the emperor welcoming the delegation himself. Those soon found it to be given since it came from the Sword Star Empire. Next to them stood the Luo Alliance high officials, with Luo Yunhai in the lead. All stood there, waiting until noon, when the sun was at its highest, to reveal a rumbling carriage forward guarded by an escort of 100,000 men and pulled by dozens of spiritual beasts. That's Western Land's ambassador? Bailey Jingwei must have sniffed a weakness in Western Lands and wants to take a bite. Zhuo Fan looked at the large army from the shadows of the walls. Snickering, Murong Shui said, "How do you know Bailey Jingwei is after Western Lands? If it feels off and looks off, then it must be something off. The other land's ambassadors aren't as armed. Care to know why?" Murong Shui nodded. "Because all other ambassadors are second-rates while only ours has a prince included. Something is bound to happen in Western Lands." Zhuo Fan grinned, "They say the prince is also Ha. Just watch." Murong Shui watched curiously as the procession came to a stop at the gates. Luo Yunhai's group stepped forward and bowed. "I am Alliance Leader Luo Yunhai and welcome the Central Area's ambassador. I am the Emperor of Tianyu Yuan Tsong, welcome." Yuan Tsong smiled while holding his emperor's hand. There was no reply from the carriage though. A sinister laughter cracked up. "Ha, third brother, it's been ages. I almost forgot you were the emperor." Yuan Tsong shook all over as he glared at the carriage, still in disbelief of what he was hearing. That voice. "Ha, have you forgotten your own brother's voice?" The door of the carriage opened and a man with sharp eyes stepped out. Yuan Tsong paled, his fingers shaky. "A second brother?" Everyone gasped. "The emperor's second brother? It's that second Prince Yuan Yong that went missing? What's he doing back? He was being hunted for treason and now—" "Third brother, you lost weight." Yuan Yong had a vile smile as he approached Yuan Tsong, patting his cheek twice. "When I told you to get thin, you said you couldn't, gaining even from drinking water. How come you're so thin?" "Oh, I got it, it was an act. When seizing the throne, you played the innocent chubby to avoid suspicion. You fooled me and our elder brother. Now that you got to be emperor, there's no need for any pretense, is there? Ha ha ha." Clap. Yuan Yong made sure to slap hard enough to swell, laughing at his expense, driven by hatred. "Old third, aren't you tired of acting? You became emperor, but now what? Aren't you just a lapdog licking my boots? How dare you address His Majesty without proper respect?" Long Kuei shouted. Luo Yunhai scoffed. "Ambassador, you represent the central area. Please watch yourself with Tianyu's emperor. Don't take it too far." "Too far? The lord of some third-rate empire can compare to the glorious Sword Star Empire's deputy minister of war?" Yuan Yang snickered. "Alliance Leader Luo, your Western Lands is martial, half of it is yours and you have my respect. As for his ex-lardness? What do you think the exalted double dragons would ever do to me?" Yuan Yong gathered Yuan Qi in his palm. Luo Yunhai panicked and grabbed it. "What are you doing?" "Just stretching." Alliance Leader Luo, lighten up. "I'm not about to cause trouble as the Central Area's ambassador, humph." Yuan Yong rolled his shoulder like he really was stretching. His hand slipped from Luo Yunhai's hold and sent a taunting and sinister look. Luo Yunhai gnashed his teeth, his face dark. Yuan Tsong took a deep breath, bowing while straining to hold it in. "After you, ambassador." "Sure, your majesty." Yuan Yong showed a malicious smile, signaling the troops, "Enter the city but be careful. Prince of Harvest is sleeping and we don't want to disturb him or heads will roll." "Yes, sir." The army rumbled onwards with dozens of carriages. Yuan Tsong's group was filled with fury and revulsion. The Sword Star Empire's ambassador was Western Land's guest and they could do nothing against him. The same happened in the past in this nation, but regardless of the discontent, never had it been the emperor suffering for it. Though this time, it was the ambassador of the largest empire in the central area hitting the emperor of a third-rate nation. Chapter 1139, Trailed. Chapter 1139, Trail. Proofreader, Papatonks. The Sword Star Empire's delegation entered the imperial capital, leaving Yuan Tsong's group behind like dirt. Zhuo Fan nodded, "To think it's Yuan Yong of all people. The former brash and reckless fool has smoothened out into a calculating man. Ah, time does change everything. The most Double Dragon manner can do when irate is to drive them out." For humiliating the delegation meant war with the Sword Star Empire, which none of the four lands had the nerve to risk. The Luo Alliance has no choice but to swallow this up. If it's only some rudeness they could just pull through. However, Zhuo Fan left. Miss Murong were keeping an eye on the garrison. There's no way Yuan Yong came to Tianyu just to take it out on the emperor. Murong Shui rushed after him. She got so used to following Zhuo Fan she did it out of reflex so she could take in humanity in all its shades of gray. 6 hours later, the sun came down so the moon could take its rightful place. The imperial capital was decorated and dazzling, a different fervor setting in from daytime. At the garrison, a fat man paced around, bored as hell. Yuan Yong stepped in, bowing. Deputy Minister Yuan Yong greets Prince of Harvest. Sir Yuan, you're finally here. I'm sick of staying all day in the carriage. Yuan Yong sat at the table with the fatty coming over like an eager child. I did what you said and didn't accept anyone's invitation. Tonight you have to entertain me. The Prime Minister had me listen to you, but you can't just turn me into a prisoner. Yuan Yong smirked, his eyes shining with malice. No worries, Your Highness, I understand your plight. You're going to love it tonight. Really? Thanks, Sir Yuan. Prince of Harvest had a knowing smile, twisting his fat fingers. Yuan Yong grinned, taking out civilian clothes. Your Highness, you're very precious and would draw attention. Change into these, then we can have fun. I'll have 2 men cover for you so no one finds out and shames us. I got it. The Prime Minister cares about this and I won't let him down. The prince changed and was a bundle of excitement as he walked outside. Sir Yuan, you're nice. Once we get back, I'll be sure to put in a good word with the Prime Minister. The Prince of Harvest left, with 2 guards watching him. Yuan Yong's grin widened. Put a good word? Haha, how pointless. Sir Yuan, Emperor Yuan invites you and Prince of Harvest to a feast. A guard knocked on the door. Yuan Yong said, I know. His Highness doesn't feel well, so I'll be going alone. Understood. The man left. Yuan Yong straightened his clothes and set off. Zhuo Fan slipped out of the shadows. Murong Shui asked, going to the imperial palace? No, after the idiot prince. He's pivotal. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone and Murong Shui followed after him. An hour later, there was one particular building, lavishly decorated and filled with cheerful noises. It had a plaque 10 meters high and very conspicuous. Fragrant Manor. Prince of Harvest muttered, showing a degenerate smile as he approached. I feel right at home. Paradise, fairies and ladies, here I come. Prince of Harvest was like a beast in heat, going straight in. His guards grinned behind him. Prince of Harvest was soon surrounded by cherry lips as he entered a room. He waved the 2 and they offered a bottle. Prince of Harvest drank it and his eyes went bloodshot as he roared, Tonight, I'll be taking on 100 people. Who shall face me, ha ha ha. Bam. The doors shut and moans, clamor and shrieks came out from behind it. The 2 guards stood outside, sharing a knowing smile. Our good prince likes nothing else but to engage in such activities. We're going in? Murong Shui glanced at the shut doors from the shadows and it was obvious what was going on behind them, reddening. Zhuo Fan smirked, all the more reason we need to enter. What's the point of tailing only to give up at the climax? How obscene. Murong Shui glared at him with red ears and a hot face. How is that? I can't see what's happening in there now, can I? I can only guess based on those constant creaking and moans. How's it any different from looking from outside? Why enter then? To be on the safe side. My eyes aren't what they used to be and I can't leave anything unturned, Zhuo Fan turned to mist and flew inside. The door opened and closed so fast and so little, that the guards were oblivious. Murong Shui blushed red-hot, tensing as she forced herself to go as well. The door clicked close and the guards felt something going in. But seeing nothing they ignored it. She hid with Zhuo Fan in a corner, the degenerate sounds grating her ears. Zhuo Fan didn't even twitch. Even after 2 hours, the noises kept going strong, with the Prince of Harvest turning into an animal and howling like a savage. The girls all groaned and cried under his brutality. Murong Shui bit her lip, glaring at Zhuo Fan and whisper shouting, Haven't you found anything after all this time? I did. What? He must have taken something to have boundless stamina. Zhuo Fan nodded like a sage. Murong Shui's face twitched, I'm talking about Bailey Jingwei's scheme here. I'm looking for that as well but I haven't found anything. What a bummer, I can only hear, Zhuo Fan sighed, devastated. Murong Shui was fuming mad, pervert watch then for I'm going. But then a person got thrown in through the window looking either dead or unconscious. There it is. Zhuo Fan grinned, any man seeking relief even if under a stimulant, would not turn into a mindless animal. What was the point? Prince of Harvest is about to go raving mad, his drink spiked to numb his mind. I think it's Bailey Jingwei's doing. What do you think, Miss Murong? Murong Shui was puzzled. What are you thinking about? Zhuofan asked but then nodded, Ew, that's just nasty. I may be a demon but I have my principles and never dual cultivated. Yet you actually... I never imagined. You... Murong Shui lowered her head in shame. Rotten bastard. He's toying with me. Then the newcomer stirred and groaned. Murong Shui started at the sounds. Is it that child? Siphon. Zhuofan sighed. The crazed Prince of Harvest picked up on the girl's voice and turned with bloodshot eyes. He howled and threw himself at her. Here comes another, ha. A finger flick hit the deranged man and he froze on the spot. Zhuofan lowered his hand. Murong Shui was about to go. I'll take the girl. She shouldn't be here ruining her good name. Pa. Zhuofan gripped her shoulder, earning an odd look from her. Luo Siphon stirred awake and Zhuofan pointed at Prince of Harvest so he could move again. The pretty girl aroused all his senses, howling as he jumped her. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.